I just love that was way harder than the NV1 just coming through. Game shows don't always work on what you've seen, so you have to make sure you adapt as time goes on.
You know what it is, man? It's being on the spot. Being on the spot like that, everybody's kind of watching you. It's like, oh, like that. It starts to snowball, and you know, in the case of Alex, when you get one, you know, it could be worse, Kresnik. It could be worse.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, we haven't had anyone get none yet, but that'll be the day.
Right.
Once that gets set, that bar is set, literally anything is better than nothing. But hey, we're going into another interesting set today. That was actually a little lengthy. It's still about 2 hours overall for that 4-0, which is about how long these typically take. But now we're going into one that is probably the most contentious in my mind. Like, I don't know how this set's going to go. Everyone voted VP. But I don't know if VP can truly beat the Knights. I don't think it's going to be a 4-0, even if they do. I think we're going to be in kind of for what we saw yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is VP won this matchup last time, but they've looked so different since then. They upset Na'Vi since then. It's like, I don't know if this is the same team that the Knights beat in week 1.
No.
The league has been so competitive. It's really been a race to improve for a lot of these guys that are playing on very new rosters and coming together for the first time. So we'll get to see who levels up and who kind of takes the back seat in today.
Well, there are a couple players overall in the Knights that have been making the big difference. And actually, one of the things we were looking at specifically for a matchup like this is when you're looking at champion pools and you're looking at things like maybe trying to get Fish Echo onto a Drogoz, you need someone who can counter that. Ricotta could play Leon or Kinessa or Strix or whatever he wants, hit scan all day, all long. And I feel like that would be successful for them. And it's actually a very interesting dynamic because, again, this is the captain for the Knights overall. And one of the few captains we've had from the DPS position.
Yes, sir. And that's the reason we talk about that being so unique is that he's got to be focused on hitting these shots. He's got to be super tunneled on his targets. And it's easy when you're up in people's faces to lose sight of what's happening around you. And that's why a lot of times we do see the in-game leaders and things like that are going to be your supports, maybe your off-tanks, things like that, people that move around the map and get a real, most of the time, supports, because they do get that very panoramic view of the battlefield. But I'm sure it's a team effort to a degree, and I'm sure in times past when we've done listen-ins, when a team is very, very good together and they know sort of what the game plan is already, the comms are pretty much like who's low HP, who's kind of caught out, what cooldowns are down, things like that. If you're needing to form a full-fledged game plan in the live comms as you're riding towards the point, it's too late. You've already goofed at that point.
But they do ride or die, I guess, by his calls, but they also have a little bit of veteranship, someone who has been up at the top several times, and that's going to be Cuss, who has come into kind of support, who has been one of the mainstay supports. Actually, Vex on the other side has mentioned that when he started learning, he was learning against Cuss. Like, that was such a big thing. Like, he was learning with Cuss. He's learning under Cuss's tutelage. And then now that it's finally at this break where, you know, he played with Cuss as the front line where Vex was support, and now they're against each other playing the same role that Cuss taught him. It's a very interesting dynamic to look into because of the fact that, I mean, Cuss has been doing this for years, and he's technically been at the top for most of that time. This is one of the first times that he's been on a team that is not that successful.
This is his first losing season in Premier League history. He's one of the most successful North American players of all time. He's got a major win under his belt, DreamHack Valencia, a couple years ago, was able to grab that with the Cryptic Boys. That's when Vex was actually the coach, or the sub-coach/coach for that squad.
Yeah.
So going way, way back in the scene, one of the oldest players in the scene, right up there with Bird, right up there with Dosups and Lazy and Spunky, and a lot of the guys that have been here since DreamHack. What was that? Sweden?
Sweden, yeah, that would have been a long time.
Young Shopping Sweden or something like that. I think that's how you say the name of that town. It's a funny name for a funny little tournament that started many, many years ago, but Cuss was there. And he's been dominating the North American scene ever since. And again, this is why it's been tough for him this season, because he has not been winning. He's not been performing the way he's used to his teams performing.
And I think that's one of the things, actually discussing with him for a little bit, is that, you know, the Knights, when you come from a 4th place team and a 5th place team, that's where 4/5 of this team come from. Taking a loss is not something that is kind of outlandish to them. They can usually bounce back from it, because it still hits pretty hard. He says that himself, that he's like, I am very emotional after a loss. Yeah. So them coming into today 2-6, especially after yesterday being kind of rough, I'm wondering how they're feeling. But we have an interview ready with their coach Vapor to kind of get the mindset of the Knights going into this set.
All right, thank you guys. We're here in the Knights booth with the head coach Vapor. First of all, we had You had a long set yesterday. That's a long, grueling game 7 there. And a lot of people, I don't think, realize that that's mentally and pretty physically tough. How's the energy of the guys coming into today?
I think the energy's still pretty well. I think that going 0-2 in a week is would be heartbreaking. So I think it's more inspiring and motivating that we want to come out with this win today. And we beat them week one. So I think we know what to do to beat them again. Both teams have had a lot of practice going in, and so I think it's just more motivating, if anything.
I kind of want to dive into that because the last time you guys played, I think it was a 4-1. You guys came out on top. Yep. Things have obviously changed. The meta's always evolving. Mm-hmm. How have things changed maybe with them and with you guys? Do you see similar matchup today?
I think we have as well, but I think that this meta favors us more.
Right.
And I think going into this match, we're just very confident. We're very motivated to win because we want to get that win again. And then, I think we're ready.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for talking to us. Good luck today. We'll send it back to the desk to keep it moving.
It's exactly what he said. It was a 4-1 the last time they met, and that was week 1. So what I was actually telling Dave when we were talking about it earlier, I was like, I don't know how much of those stats you can break down. Like VP, the only map they took during that was Ice Mines,
right.
And admittedly, it was kind of a jumble. They don't look like the team they are now, but the same thing can be said for the Knights. They didn't look like the team they are now. The biggest difference I think I've seen was like originally Pip was like Pan's go-to. Like they carried so many games because they got Pip. Now he's not as highly prioritized by the Knights or by VP.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily know why. I think there's been good evidence as to Pip being a very, very strong character in this meta. I think that's something they could lean on and should lean on. I think that was like pretty much the key ban for NIP today is getting rid of Tenner's Pip. It disallowed Diggy Dog from being as aggressive as he likes to be. That dive just wasn't quite as potent. I think if it's allowed to come through the draft, the Knights should absolutely look to pick it up and use it the way we've seen it be effective in the league so far.
Well, looking at Virtus.Pro, we have kind of mentioned, I guess, like where Ricotta is going to stand for the Knights, and against him is going to be Hecate, who, when it comes down to it, that's one of the matchups you always want to be able to see. Ricotta has really good aim. Hecate has really good aim, if not the best aim right now, I'd say, between him and probably Rock Monkey at the top of the league in terms of their DPS. But the thing that Hecate didn't have that, players like Rock Monkey do have was a deeper champion pool. He was, as Evan put it, a specialist for hit scan. His Leon, always going to be able to hit and always going to do well. His Kinessa, his Strix. But he's added into that the Cassie, and he's slowly added into that the Amani. What do you think is probably going to be like the bigger pickup between these two?
Definitely Amani today. Cassie and Leon, thankfully for Virtus.Pro, are not really looked at as much anymore. They're not highly contested. They're rarely banned. So Hecate will always be comfortable, I think, on something. And he's even started to work the Shaolin a little bit here and there. I think that's not something he'll be afraid to go to, but with so much else open that he prefers, I don't think he'll be in an uncomfortable spot at any point today.
Well, you can see the perfect, like 50% win-loss, right? 20-20. So not quite where they want to be standing again. They're coming into this 4-2 technically. So being able to be under control, there's the dab that he keeps throwing out, this time spinning around, which I think is actually a next-level maneuver.
His dab is like so slow, though. I like the aggressive dab, like the quick one. It's the point. It's the whole point of the dab is dab. It's not.
But I think he wants you to like. You have to feel it. For him, it's a slow burn that he's trying to ingrain into you.
It makes me tired looking at that dab.
Maybe he's tired. Maybe that's why his dabs are so slow.
That's a low energy dab. We need that high energy aggression.
Well, he definitely seems to have the energy in the laugh, just not in the dab. Of course, we looked at, one DPS for each player. We're going to look at the support for each team. And, hey, it was mentioned before.
He's hitting us with the blue steel.
Has learned undercuss himself. And I will admit, I want to say has done a ton in terms of pumping out content and just studying supports.
I mean, what a beast.
What a beast.
Look at the man, the myth, the legend, the Vex 30. And he couldn't hold it together the whole time. Oh, another blue steel. They're looking ready. I think VP are taking this one. It might be over.
I actually feel like 9 times out of 10 when you get the
Andros?
team that comes in and like they're playing around with like the camera shots, it can go 50-50. I've been in both teams. Like, I mean, even SSG and NIP during the beginning when sitting in their booth, they all seem relaxed. But once game time comes, that's when it starts to click. That's when you start to feel maybe the sweat come through.
I mean, he just 1v1 to Alex's Andro on Maldamba. Anybody else done that ever? I don't know.
I don't think so.
That's a tall task. Deep Dread Serpents as well. It's been a phenomenal support. in all seriousness. But in all seriousness, I don't think anyone else has 1v1'd Alex's Androxus on Maldamba. That might be an achievement that he gets to sort of hang over the league.
If we ever give him an MVP trophy, that's what it should just say. Instead of MVP, it should be like soloed Alex's Drogos with Maldamba.
Easy for him.
Being able to come through. I mean, it's going to be an interesting matchup. And the one thing I'm looking at is Saris overall. I think Genos has been a ban a lot yesterday for Virtus.Pro. I think we're going to see that come into today as well, if not the Knights banning that out. Saris is where Vex would kind of lean to. Cuss as well has gone down there. So if she's going to be priority, if not, I think Maldamba is going to take priority over her. But I mean, these two teams, it could go the distance. This could be a 7-game set. It could be a 4-game set. I don't think anyone knows.
You never know until you get into that one. And the support ban today, or yesterday against NIP, the pit ban today, it's attacking these specific things that make them super strong. And we'll have to see which of those each of these teams have come to the conclusion of is most worthwhile to attack.
Well, it'll be interesting to see the Battle of the Brains. We got to talk with Vapor, the coach of the Knights. Now we can go down and listen to see what Spuds has to say for Virtus.Pro.
All right, guys, thank you. Goofiness aplenty today down here in the Virtus.Pro booth, and I want to kind of jump into it. They obviously had a tough day yesterday. They had a 4-0 against NIP, but you guys had a long day as well. You guys had a tough 7-game set that you went through. How's the energy coming into today?
The energy's fine. I'm just looking for like consistency. Yeah. I'm looking for intensity. Like, you know, this can't be an off day for us. Right. That's the main thing. If we have an off day, we're going to lose.
Well, you did get the win yesterday, but you've already played these guys. You played them week number 1. They got the better of that matchup. How have things changed over the past few weeks coming into today?
We were really, really new the first time we played. I think Doe said in an interview they've changed a lot, and so have we. So it's kind of like a fresh set.
You've gotten some more time to look over them. What are some things maybe you're expecting today?
Everyone's laughing at me.
You're doing great.
Yeah, I'm doing
They
awesome.
get the easy job. They get to sit and watch.
I forgot the question.
What are you expecting maybe out of them today? You've gotten a little more time to watch them since week number 1. Anything you're expecting?
No, they're good drafters. They're consistently good at what they do, and it's tough to like draft around them because they do so much. So well. So we're just going to go and try to play our game.
Sure, well, absolutely. Thanks for chatting with us. Good luck today. Send it back to the desk to get this set moving.
I mean, that's exactly what we were kind of saying yesterday. Even though it was a 4-game set against NIP, the Knights were shifting their draft. Like, they were playing appropriately, and I think they were targeting things the right way. It's just that NIP are really good, so it's very difficult to take them down that peg and match them. When you're coming in against Virtus.Pro, that's going to make a huge difference from game to game.
Absolutely, and that's why I think I like to watch the Knights, is because I feel like they can really, really switch it up, and they don't have any one player that needs to be a super big win condition for them. Yesterday, when I was watching for VP, it felt like if Fishy or Hecate didn't have like one of those big pop-off performances, then it was a bit of a struggle bus, as well as, you know, who has studied up on these new characters a little bit more. To be honest, last week it was all about Atlas and Amani, and this week, especially in that little set earlier today, it felt like let the Atlas go. Maybe let the Amani go a little bit, as people are starting to try and figure out how do we beat these characters. They're not unbeatable. They're definitely super strong, sometimes ban-worthy, but you can shut them down. I think FreezeGod did a phenomenal job at shutting down Tenor's Amani there on Brightmarsh. He definitely got the better of those trades the majority of the set. Torvald will be the first ban here for the Knights. Makoa will be the selection for VP.
Surprise, surprise.
And here comes the flavor bans. If there's going to be anything like the Pips or the Genos, these last 2 ban slots is where you expect to see it.
And one of the things that I'm looking at is specifically Khan, Atlas. Both of those have been kind of high priority off tanks overall, especially for G-Bunny, which is kind of why it's surprising to see the Knights get rid of the Khan. Of course, with VP getting rid of the Atlas, that means you're shifting that priority down to Ruckus, Ash. Those others maybe playing a little bit more of a role in this, but Genos stays open, and so he will come through for the Knights. And that's something that, again, I think every game last set was picked up, and most of the time, the last 3 of them were picked up by NIP.
So we do have some big stuff open. Khan, Ash, little Amani for the boys. A lot of things for VP to think about. I don't know how contested Eevee's going to be. It feels like if they wanted to this set, Pan could just get Pip all set. Sheko could get Eevee all set. And that's the way it would go, and we just see who came out on top of that.
Stay close and follow
It will be the
my lead.
Barrack Ash up. Excuse me,
like that.
Khan was banned out. I misspoke there earlier. And VP will lock in both frontliners early on, send it back to the Knights.
And this is one of those things when you think about it this way. The reason 2 frontlines is great there. Well, one, you don't need to support anymore because they already have that. But also, Barrack and Ash, of the front lines that are still available, are arguably the best ones to have with Genos. Barrack with the Genos heal with his bowling ball resets will stay alive long enough. Ash with that extra damage burst does a ton. And Nara is not the best kind of person to pair with that. So grabbing away
Let's
those
make
two and
this
kind of maybe
interesting.
pushing Dethroner onto a Fernando or somebody that maybe he's a little less comfortable with gives a little bit of an edge to VP.
Well, they grab it early. The Pip Cassie here for the Knights. Under no pressure to pick frontliners, as VP have already grabbed both of what they want. They go for both the damage dealers, so likely Ricotta and Young Payan here on the Cassie and the Pip. As we go back to VP, they'll look to pick up their Maldamba, one of their DPS. Just leave that last spot open to be flexible.
Well, Amani going to come through. This is one that we, again, have been kind of watching over the last couple of weeks. Both Hecate as well as Fish have played this, and I believe Ricotta has been picking up this a little bit as well throughout the last couple of weeks. So someone that's going to be contested.
You know why I'm worried about this right now? She pops that dragon.
And then Pip just
Go
goes
Ziggs.
bonks her.
No, go Ziggs, Lightning Beam, or through
yeah.
time and space from
Keep
Genos.
talking while you
If this
can.
Amani is not running the full HP cards to survive the 2400 burst from through time and space, she is at high risk of getting scouted out and then laser beamed from across the map.
It's definitely going to be rushed, but hey, you do get what you wanted. Pip versus Eevee coming through, and it's just going to come down to, well, does Payan happen to come through, or does Sheko happen to come through? Which one's going to make the bigger splash?
That might be all set long for these two. I don't know if they're going to fight over these picks too much. Knights, they got to pop off with this Pip. I like it into those tanks for sure,
Yeah.
but Fasheko's Eevee is Fasheko's Eevee, so...
Well, we're just going to have to see. Battle of the Blasters that comes through a little bit, maybe leaning towards the Knights, but this set could be a lengthy one. We'll have to see how Game 1 goes, and to do that, we'll jump down to Evan and Dave.
Thank you, guys. Battle of the Blasters. That
Yes.
sounds like a Game of Thrones spinoff.
Yeah,
and
it
I really
does.
enjoy it. I really do enjoy it. But I'm really happy to see the Knights going the Pip route. It's paid off in dividends for NIP, most notably, of course.
Yeah.
And some of the other teams have shown kind of a hesitance to jump into that pool, but the Knights have been one of the ones who have really kind of adopted that champion. So I'm excited to see the way it plays out here. How do you feel about Pip? Obviously, in the right hands, he can make a big difference.
Yeah, we didn't see Stonekeep last round, and so Pip has a pretty nice niche on this map. Specifically, he's got a lot of high ground he can control and a lot of up downs that can happen very quickly to separate himself from any pursuers. But I actually think this one's going to be decided very much so by Fishy and Hecate.
Yeah.
If we do not see those two have any memorable performances, this is Knights to win.
Yeah.
I think if Virtus.Pro play at their absolute best, we should be seeing them take this game, but anything can happen. We've seen
I agree.
so many changes in these little moments.
I mean, game one's going to set the tone. I mean, remember, Knights coming off a tough 4-0 yesterday, so
Yeah.
that's hard for in and of itself. Virtus.Pro, they win, but it's a long 4-3 set. Hecate is going to get things started here on the Monty for Virtus.Pro, and they're on the point to boot. This damage keeps going in their favor.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wait, they didn't actually end up getting the kill. Fasheko's able to get out. G-Bunny finally is going to drop the Eevee, but it's not going to matter. Virtus.Pro, they were on the point from the start, and the Knights didn't have an answer.
Oh, and this is a really good cross
Oh,
bomb. You can
nice.
tell. Oh, a little spray. That's kind of unusual for Hecate, and maybe he knows the style of Pittsburgh Knights. He knows that they're a little flavorful in their responses, so gives it one back. I like it.
You know what, Evan? I know his insider secret.
Oh, okay.
And I'm going to spoil this
Do
for
it.
the entire community.
Dave,
I
spoilers.
walked in to do the interview,
Okay.
and he was just chilling watching some basketball anime. I'm not sure what it was, but
Oh,
he was
no.
glued to the screen.
Wow.
And
He's
I
getting
think-
hyped up.
Exactly. And he was loving it, and I think that's the difference maker. I'm not sure what it was. There was lightning coming out of the player's eyes and all this sort of
what?
stuff. And I mean, that's the secret, I think, in this case.
I
And,
mean, it sounds like a boss battle to me. I mean, lightning
It
out
was.
the eyes. You got to save that for
he
like.
drained a three-pointer at the end, won the game.
Ooh, that's a serious arc coming to completion there. So he's definitely feeling the highs of that one, and hopefully he can ride that with his play. So far, so good.
Yeah.
1-0 for VP. I mean, Cuss Cutie finding a nice kill on the Pule Ule. Ricotta is going to be scary on this Cassie, but Vex seems to be bailing him out quite often.
Some ultimates starting to fly here. The Immortal's going to buy a little bit of time, but right into the Dread Serpent. Rakata tumbles. The Dragon now rounding the corner here. Remember, still early on in this game, they're going to be able to kill it, but maybe not quite as quickly as late game. Rakata and Payan are going to combine for a couple. Dethroner's going to throw his hat into the mix as well. And now it's a young Pule and the Hecate. I mean, they're holding their own here. But remember, they're on offense right now.
Yeah.
Pittsburgh are pushing into their base, and they're respawning.
Yeah, so this is a very, very strong defense by Pittsburgh, but it's very committal. This is something that has been very common in these games over the last few weeks of the PPL. These like heavy, aggressive, do anything we can to just like stall you from getting close to the point. And they haven't been a lot. No teams are really content with just sitting up here and letting him get 50% of the way. It's actually pretty risky with how many damage threats there are on the board. So finally things get moving. Yeah. But a minute and a half wasted by Pittsburgh. Good defense from them.
I have to say, I mean, that's a great break there from Virtus.Pro. We were 10 seconds ago off on the opposite side of the map in Virtus.Pro's spawn, and they're able to break out of it, and now are knocking on the door, potentially getting this one through. Ash seeing some play here in this set. Makes a big impact for NIP whenever she comes out as well.
Yeah.
Restack coming here. They're getting aggressive now, getting up into the face of Virtus.Pro. That's going to be good for a kill onto the healer.
Yeah.
So now they can just run down the rest of the team. A double kill for the Cassie. Dosup's levels 1 back, but it looks like time is out here for Virtus.Pro if they're not able to find some kills.
It does seem like it's going to go into a pretty decent defense there, but Doe's bought a lot of time, more than they would have hoped, and almost enough for Fishy to try to reset this. He's not going to, and maybe it would have been a little bit of bad luck for him to try. Might have forced them to use some ultimates that they shouldn't have really used, because that did seem hopeful at best to be able to push that one through.
I mean, I think a defense honestly is won, I think, because of how long Pittsburgh were able to push into Virtus.Pro's base. I mean, by the time they got back to the payload, they really only had one or two chances at it.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, that was definitely the strength of it. The thing I like about Fishy, and sometimes character personality traits do impact the way you play. In fact, they all do. You know, we'll see somebody's a little bit more aggressive in their style. And he's really a guy who does not like to sit in the back and let life happen as far as Paladins. He'll get up there. He may die 5 times, but he's going for 10 kills. Like, he will be blinking into your back line.
That's right.
And you're going to have to deal with him. Unlike some damage dealers who can sometimes feel like very passive, like, you know, where are they this game? Fishy, that's not going to be the case. However, here's the Dragon. We'll see how passive he has to stay, because he definitely has the miniguns locked and loaded on him.
Dragon didn't have the most impact the first time we saw it come out this game. It's making its way into the keep side of things here, but Rakata again getting so aggressive. Unfortunately, the rest of his team is kind of pushed back on the backside there. Nice stun's going to come out up on the high ground. Pacheco's getting aggressive as well as Rakata. Rakata's going to get the better end of that one. Fishy now trying to blink in and find some damage. G-Bunny's going to go down. Payan, though, answers back with one of his own. This is going back and forth.
And Fishy doing an interesting thing, actually committing onto these 2 healers, and it is the smart play, because there's the value. Take down
nice ice storm.
The source, and you don't have to worry about what the effects of that source are. And no more healing. The Droner can't touch the point without being in a very big heap of trouble. And this is just bad timing, because he's in a horrible position. Akate still has angles on him, even though the shield is up.
It's actually a beautiful route. Not maybe that it would have made any difference, but really getting him stuck there. Not really getting into a position that he wanted to be in. They were able to find the damage through the back of his shield. And as such, Virtus.Pro, I mean, they've looked great on these mid-fights up to this point. The Knights, though, they're not in a position. They were able to win sort of the back end of point fight number 1.
Right.
But now they're just spawning out, and this payload's rounding this corner much faster than it did last round.
And that shows you how much more Virtus.Pro adapted and won this second fight. I mean, it did look like Pittsburgh might have been under control, but they gambled way too much on the Evil Mojo. They only found 1 kill, and Fishy was not dealt with. He was able to find pressure on a G-Bunny, and then he was essentially able to assist and get kills onto Payan and Cuss. That's a 3-for-1. I don't care if you get a tank as a chicken.
True.
That's just way too much value to give up.
At the moment, they're able to answer back, though, just a little bit. Stall things out. G-Bunny's going to fall. And nice double kill there from the Damba. Throwing his hat into the ring. You always got to love a nice Damba kill. Mitau does it really well. Vex does it really well as well. And flexing his support guns here.
And I mean, Vex and Doe are really helping to bail Fishy out here because he is so aggressive. He's baiting Rakata because Rakata's taking these 1v1s. He's saying, all right, you and me, you're in the ice block, I'm one shot as well. And then 3 people roll up or they get out of the car and they say, no, you're fighting against all of us. And it's such a good, I think, focus from VP, who have been pushed to the limits, admittedly, from yesterday, carrying off that like little synergy that sometimes makes the difference.
Look how aggressive they're getting. Dosips was right alongside the Ash up there on the high ground. Pule is going to fall here. A minute left, though. Plenty of time. Virtus.Pro are going to call this attack off. The Dragon was used maybe just to try to help things get pushed through. Did not happen that time. Immortal will be around soon. So both teams are close to 4 or 5 ultimates strong going into this one. With 40 seconds left, you're really going to rely on maybe a couple picks that come out that really open things up. As I say that, though, down comes the banner. Vasheka with a couple, Hecate and Pule with 1.
Worth.
And that was about a 2-second team fight. That all happened so fast. Only Cuss gets out alive, and he's up on the high ground.
I mean, he can take high ground from him right here. I mean, Pule is in such a good spot. What are you going to do? Shoot him or shoot the go to the point? And if you do, then you have to ignore him. Dread Serpent is and a dope
That's all they needed.
I mean, holy moly.
I mean,
a little overkill there, but they got the job
that's
done.
value. I mean, I think
they got the push, Dave. I think they did.
Just in. They did get the push. The push did come through. I mean, that's just, I don't know, maybe they didn't expect, I mean, we can pick hairs here. They got the point through. I think what the Dome Shield was assuming.
They really needed a seismic crash and an Evil Mojo as well, Dave, but I'll take a Dome Shield and a Dread Serpent, yeah.
I mean, I assume that came out reactionary or more precautionary, assuming maybe a tank was going to try to jump down, but the good Dread Serpent right into the right spot. I mean, that sends a few running.
I mean, definitely miscommunication. That's really what it is. And Doe, he was a little behind. Vex was getting hit by G-Bunny. I was going to mention this, but we got to another point. Doe comes forward, but it's too late, and G-Bunny's able to take down Vex. It's the timing of it because there's no way you need a Dread Serpent and a Dome Shield. You know, the Dread Serpent's going to make sure that no one even gets into the Dome Shield. That's the whole point of that. Evil Mojo early and often. Payin finds that kill. Sets up nice stuff for Puleuli to go down early, but Hecate trades with G-Bunny again.
He was nearly able to get around that corner. Payin on this Pip, starting to make his presence felt. There have been some sort of okay Evil Mojos up to this point, but nothing that have raised the eyebrows just as of yet. One back, Eevee is going to find one Hecate as well. So back kind of in control after a tough start now. Our Virtus.Pro, the Dragon's going to buy some space. Oh, looks like maybe he canceled it right at the last moment there, realizing they might not need it. So let's pull it back. Oh no, maybe the Dragon was out. The cooldown doesn't reset, I guess, until the Dragon is killed. G-Bunny did just that. The Hexifier is going to go right into Pule's shield. The shoulder bash is going to send him back, but 93% here, Evan.
You got to be careful here. G-Bunny, luckily gets shut down. Virtus.Pro going to take that one pretty easily. And I like their intention with it all. It's saying, we are going to just overwhelm you.
Yeah.
To me, this felt very, very NIP early on.
Yeah.
The fact that they were just saying, 3 tanks, Bright Marsh, what you got? Nothing? All right, game over before the team even wakes up to play.
I mean, that's got to be tough on the side of the Knights. It's not how, well, I don't think anyone wants to start their day off on that foot. But you got to imagine Cuskidi will be in the ears of the guys, making sure that they get some of those adjustments in. I mean, is that anything really beyond just Virtus.Pro looking clean and playing their comp really well?
Yeah, it is a little bit. And, Payin is a very good player for them, and he needs to have some pop-off performances for them to succeed. That's always, been a big key for the Knights. And the Pip didn't quite get the job done. They did find some value on those early Evil Mojos, but sometimes, like in the point fight that was really crucial that set up the 3-1, they just ended up almost overcommitting to it. And it was, a good try, but I don't know. Maybe go away from the Pip now, or at least try your hand at another lineup. Yeah.
Sure. Well, coming out on top of game number 1 are Virtus.Pro. They continue their winning ways from yesterday. Send it back to the desk to break down game number 1.
I just think it's funny. The one note I'd made coming into today was the fact that Payin hadn't played a lot of Pip lately. I haven't seen it as much in the last few sets. Yeah. It comes through and kind of fell flat.
And even for NIP, it's not an every single map pick, so maybe that has something to do with it. How developed are their strategies kind of across the board? Is this just a comfort pick for him? And the answer is yes, but to what degree, right?
Yeah.
I think for Eevee, starting to come out on Stone Keep a little bit more, starting to come out on Jaguar Falls a little bit more, that's when she's feeling like more of a comfort pick. So it's definitely a balance between, is this an every map thing? Is this something you just feel comfortable on? Can we go to something else, right? What else is in the Blaster Pool? Bomb King, also a very strong look for Stone Keep. I think there's definitely more in the pool for Pain, but when it's time, even though they lost this one, I don't want him to be too afraid to go back to it later on the set if it's the right call for the moment. Kind of let this one just like let this game be what it was, and don't be afraid to go to it if the situation calls for it.
Well, you can see where the damage was coming from. Hecate, Fisheko, I mean, we kind of highlighted it. It was going to be kind of Pip versus Fishy, Payan versus Fishy, as to who was going to be able to come out on top. And I think, well, we can say that the 12-4 Eevee definitely had a bigger impact than the 7 and 8 Pip overall. Just being able to find and isolate mainly what it looks like was Dethroner and Cuss overall, but just being the nuisance. Fisheko's Eevee has always been very good, and I wouldn't be surprised, especially from what we've seen in the past, if when you switch away from, the Torvald Khan, the Makoa Atlas bands, when it starts to become more targets, Eevee putting her name on that list.
I always loved seeing Puleule come back and kind of have a big performance as well, making a lot of space, being aggressive for the boys, and everybody knows how I feel about Fishy's Eevee at this point.
I mean, one of the things to follow up on the Puleule conversation is really just looking at the fact that yesterday they played Ash, or Ash got picked once in their set versus SSG, and I don't even think it was them that picked it, it was SSG, so, I mean, something that went completely void. No, that's not true. It got picked by SSG at the very beginning. It was in the 1st and 7th map. And it's just something that made such a phenomenal performance throughout all of that, between him, Fishy, and everybody. It's kind of surprising to see them not prioritize it as often yesterday and have it be such a huge thing today.
Yeah, I think it's still a degree of transitioning. Dosip's sort of played point aggro tank for G2 last season. Pule played mostly point tank when he was playing with Sadak. Sadak still performing the role that he is performing now, was playing that aggro tank, the Ashes, the Cons, things like that. Even Fernando back then really was kind of more of an aggro tank. And right now he's sort of got a foot in each door. I don't really know. Fernando's kind of met to me at the moment. But I think overall, if Fishy can continue to feel good, and maybe it comes down to keeping him on Eevee all day if they don't take it away from him or put any pressure on that champion pool. But he's been vocally upset about his performance, on Twitter and his platforms and things like that. So if he can be comfortable, and he's been a guy that's, I think, been prone to getting upset in the past, especially playing for Fnatic, when things are so high and so easy for you all season long, and then you get to land and lose time after time after time. That's not easy, I think, for a young guy to put up with.
No, it is definitely something that will wear you down overall. Now they're going to Jaguar Falls. Actually, interesting tidbit for anyone who wants to know, this is the same pick they had yesterday against SSG. They were first pick yesterday, second pick today, same map. And so far, different bans overall. I'm wondering if Genos, I mean, it didn't really win anything for the night, so I don't think VP are going to prioritize banning him.
Yeah, I don't know. The Genos first pick is fairly unique, but the support economy right now is in an interesting spot for sure. Genos has kind of been up and down throughout this season, with Grover coming in and out as well, and some other supports starting to get looked at. A little bit of Saris, a little bit of Ying, even a little bit of Furia coming back in. I don't know how. It depends on your comp for sure, because both of these supports are totally cool to have anything in the champion pool, and you're almost giving me the Barney Kid shake here as Anara gets locked in first.
I'm just kind of reeling from where we're standing, because I feel like there's so many things that are prioritized against the Knights, so many things that can come through and make a big difference here. I mean, Genos is really good for Cuss, Bomb King is really good for Pan, and the two of them together are really good on this map and with each other. And they go for Anara first. That's something that hasn't really been highly contested. But it might be to try and pull Dethroner out of a comfort area.
Well, they seem to have done just that with 4 front lines banned, 2 picked away. Fernando Barrick is all that's left in the pool for the Knights. And that's kind of one of the, with Terminus banned, the unique spot the frontline class is sort of in right now, is that you have to play all of them, right? Because it's realistic that you're going to be forced that deep into the pool. Double damage amp. Luminary Bomb King, though, coming through with the Tyra hunting party as well. And what will lead the charge on this? Can Fernando be that aggro tank? Can he create the space that Bomb King and Tyra need to succeed?
Here's the real question. Is it going to be Fernando, like you say, or do you think they're going to go triple DPS? Like, do you think they're going to flex out of it? Because, I mean, double damage amp, you add Bomb King and then put something else in there, it starts to hurt a lot.
The way that they've drafted thus far, it definitely
Kind of
lead you to believe that way. They've left themselves open to it.
Leon would be good against the Drogo.
It would. They do have Tyra right now, and I don't know. I think it would
destroy our enemy.
but kind of.
If you know
No, but kind of. With the Ruckus pick.
The Bruiser, I think, is what you called him yesterday, and I think that's the accurate term. Does a good chunk of damage, but pretty tanky as well. Like, he's not going to do as much damage as if you put a Leon or a Cassie down there, but he's also not going to die as easy as if you put a Leon or Cassie down there. So just looking at these, do you think one team has the edge? Is the first pick Inara good, or was it just not kind of a wash? At the end of the day?
They gotta try and win the game off their front line that they prioritized early for sure. Drogo's running into the Ruckus normally would be good, but with Tyra there marking him up, swinging that damage back in Ruckus's favor, I don't know. This one could be tough for Pacheco. There's not a lot of mobility on this back line, so VP really need to control space with Inara and Dash.
I am kind of scared of double damage amp whenever I see it on the team, because normally that means we're going to see some very exaggerated numbers, especially out of someone like Bomb King on one of his favorite maps. It's going to be Jaguar Falls, and it's looking pretty good, but the Knights are down right now. The draft goes their way. The question is, can they take this one as we go down to the casters?
Gore, I am not sure, but it's going to be nuts, and that's all I know. It's going to be a nuts game number 2.
Yeah.
I think, honestly, I mean, Pittsburgh has, I think, shown
As far as
that
the
they're
nut,
a strong drafter.
we were talking about the nut tier list there. We're giving pistachios a firm nod to the S tier nut.
Right.
We're talking about almonds and cashews being an A tier. You kind of shift towards cashews.
Right.
As far as nuts, what's Virtus.Pro and what's Pittsburgh in comparison?
Are we saying
Who's the almond or the
equating a
cashew?
team
Who's
to
the
a nut?
pistachio? I mean, who's the peanut?
Well, let me clarify.
Whoa!
Whoa, that was huge! Oh my God, is the follow-up there? It surely is from Pacheco. We're talking about nuts. That play was nuts.
Mama!
Up a triple, and the damage is there from Pacheco. And wow, what a start from Virtus.Pro. You can't ask for much more of that. You're not able to get to Throner, at least not as of yet. But what they do have are 81% on the point.
Oh.
What a perfect vantage point for that, too.
Oh,
You're flying
man.
up above, and then 3 half-health targets are just rooted right where they're at. Hecate, that's the ice bomb you're looking for. That gets things started real well for Virtus.Pro.
From the new skin, too. I mean, giving it those nice effects. I think they're clearly the pistachio because they peeled open Pittsburgh Knights
let's
there.
revisit this
and
now.
found just the beautiful, beautiful center.
My.
And they worked hard for it, but it felt so easy watching that thing.
That's, I mean, that is the best possible start that you could hope for. I mean, the best possible ice bomb that you could hope for.
Yeah.
What a play there from Hecate from downtown. They stalled out here a little bit on the defensive end. But about a minute into this game, point 1 was already pretty much cleaned up where it was at. So hats off to them. One thing well, now it might not make much sense, but coming into this game, I was going to say, I mean, we talk about how the Knights are one of the better drafting teams, or people think they're one of the better drafting teams. I actually think that comes out to play here a little bit in the draft that they've brought to the table. I think they actually drafted this one very, very well. It's not necessarily going in their favor this time, but they've shown a willingness to throw some interesting stuff out there.
Yeah, and what I like is their commitment to doing things differently and checking different options out. The Knights, for me, have almost never been at fault for their lack of creativity. It's only been their lack of execution.
Right.
Where other teams need less execution, more creativity, they play some of the similar things. We've even talked about that being with Virtus.Pro, where we felt that sometimes Hecate's more so when you're comparing it to Tinner, limited champion options, or at least flexes that he feels really comfortable about, hindering VP and what they like to play and how deep that they can go. But right here, I think we're seeing something very, very different. His Amani has looked good. They have continued to find answers, and just after a week, make adjustments that to me, Hecate of old may not have made. So great progression there.
Yeah, I mean, when you really want to get down to it, this is just Virtus.Pro playing out of their minds right now. You start off with the triple ice bomb. The rest of the game goes in your favor here. They're just playing better right now. That's one of those things where it's like you can split hairs. Here's a Hexafire. So you gotta find some damage, but Pule is gonna use the shoulder bash to get out of range, and they have a dragon helping them potentially push this one through. The damage is gonna come down. some ultimates. The dome shield's a little bit reactionary here. Fishy, he continues his rampage up in the air. This payload's close.
I relate so well to this because when I play Paladins, you know, the first thing that I really say I gotta do is I say I gotta get a Drogo skin. And it's all worm jets, baby. And this vantage point is just so sweet. No one's looking at you. You're just firing rockets from above. You feel like a superhero. Ricotta's gonna take the final kill because she does hunt the big game. But she's not going to be able to stand tall as well. Leave that to the front lines. But there's a look.
My. Was that 4? That might have even been 4
might have
on
been
the
4.
G-Bunny.
You're right.
It was absolutely 3, but it looked like just for a moment G-Bunny was rooted there. Regardless, 3-man, 4-man makes it a little bit cooler, but it's a beautiful ice bomb. And then Fasheko can just tee off from up in the air. Again, what a beautiful position to be able to watch that from. Just see it float in, and then the rest of them just have to deal with it afterwards. Not impressed with himself, though, is Fasheko. Unassuming until the games are over.
Because he's still missing shots, and that's the other thing that I can relate to as well. It's that it's not perfectly clean. He took a couple of extra shots. When you land every shot, that really becomes like a problem that no one can really answer. But if you give him this wiggle room, and they have had it, Ricotta and the rest of these guys have been able to take Fishy down. They've been able to pressure him, but Fishy's done enough work before that could happen to really cause havoc. Right here, NIP, with that many 3 people looking at him, Bonker hits that shot on Barrick. Maybe he's dead, but Pittsburgh aren't punishing him as much as he could be. Through time and space, though. Oh, and the bomb goes through. Ricotta's going to finish off Fasheko, and this starts things off.
They're open up. Oh, the King Bomb gets shut down before he's able to roll out. The aggressive Ash is going to be good for a couple. That's a good Dread Serpent. Gets Cuskcutie, out of the fight for just a moment. Doseps, he's going to run down Ricotta with the help of Hecate and Virtus.Pro. They've recaptured control here of the point. Some good ultimates, though, for the Knights. They just couldn't really convert that into positional control. Here comes the King Bomb finally. Only really one person on that side. It's going to be the healer, but he's not going to find any targets. 3-0 here for Virtus.Pro.
And Doseps, the way he's playing the Sonar is wonderful. He's not sitting back on point where maybe a more reserved style would be, where he'd be ready to throw that wall up if they ever contested. He went and he zoned out. He used his tankiness, he used his presence, he used the wall to alter routes, and he also just said, you know what, yeah, shoot me. 4 of you shoot me. But that means we're going to have a 4v1 when somebody tries to touch the point. That's exactly what happened. G-Bunny made it through, but he didn't last long.
Okay, here comes the Dragon. Oh, he gets called out by Pan. Around the back here. And no, the cooldown is still up for the Dragon. Only one Dragon on the map at the moment, and that's going to be Fishy. That's a good long-range shot there from Pan. Finds a couple, helps his team clean up a third here. Standing firm on the defense at the moment are the Knights. How do you... Looking at the tools that they have, I mean, is it on the Tyra and the Bomb King to deal with the Drogos?
Yeah,
is that where you look?
BK against Worm Jets, horrible matchup. Right. I mean, if Drogos can get any height, it's too much to lead. It's the same thing with Drogo sometimes has an issue hitting down, and it's a little easier, but in the air, forget about it. So many dimensions there. I think that they've got a great lineup, and it's only going to kind of work a little bit better for VP if they can get in their angles. But Cuss, he's the guy that might make the difference here. He's such a veteran player. He knows the issue. Dose is doing a little back cap, but he'll find it out now. If he can find meaningful damage, if Dethroner can get a big shot, anything to help this become easier for G-Bunny and Ricotta to really finish off Fasheko, then this matchup could go the way of PK.
They're kind of rotating in opposite directions here. I know that the Knights have now sniffed it out. This is where the engagement will stand. About 45 seconds left. They want a shot at this one. They need to clean up this team fight relatively quickly. Dropping G-Bunny is going to be helpful. The Dread Serpent is going to save the life of the moment.
Oh!
Hecate, nice plays there. He finds himself 2 in this fight. Doseps adds 1 as well. Now they're back to the cart moving forward.
Yeah, and it, to me, just these little things. It's hard to nitpick here because, yes, Virtus.Pro playing really, really well, but you see the aggression from G-Bunny, and it's just too aggressive. And Pittsburgh are like, do we follow you, or do we just let you die? If we let you die, it's 5v4. If we follow you, we die 1 at a time.
Oh, the Dragon.
And if we just stay near this fire, we get burned to ash. And that's Virtus.Pro taking a 2-0 lead over Pittsburgh Knights.
There you go. Now he's willing to do it. We had to coerce him into the roundabout dab there in the back room. You know, 2 dragons though. That is the double dragon team comp, and they burned away the Knights in this case.
Yeah,
and,
you're right.
You can see the faces. I mean, they're all just kind of looking down, obviously not happy with how that one went. I mean, Virtus.Pro, they played their comp to a T.
They're losing too fast too.
Right.
This is
it's
hard.
not contended.
It's kind of getting out of their grip, and that's where they need to somehow in Game 3 stabilize, because it does suck to lose, but to a team that you've beat before, now a game that you're hoping you could win because you desperately need wins in this season, it's tough to go down 2-0 so quickly. It's really makes you look at, what do we do wrong? What's working well for them? Is this something we can overcome with decision making, or do we have to look internally and say we're not up to the par that we want to be at right now?
Sure. I know that we talked to Vapor, and he was like, losing 2 this week would be pretty heartbreaking, but they're halfway there at the moment. Virtus.Pro snag a 2-0 lead here in our second set of the day. Send it back to the guys at the desk.
I think the sentiment I've heard the most actually is, I thought this was going to be a little closer of a set. And I think that's what everyone's thoughts were coming into this. I mean, they might be 2-6, but the Knights are actually playing incredibly well compared to that win-loss. So the fact that Virtus.Pro, it's a 4-1, it's a 4-0, that's just dominant.
And again, it comes back to just how competitive the league is, right? Virtus.Pro were sitting dead even yesterday, and that was such a critical matchup for them against SSG, because it's either you become a losing team or a winning team at 4-3 or 3-4. They're a winning team. They're on the upswing right now. They've been improving week over week, hand over fist. Kate Zamani's looked super, super good. This is the perfect thing for him, just that third character to get him to a very flexible spot in combination with the rest of his champion pool not really being highly contested. Very comfortable games for the Amani, very comfortable games on the Eevee, and now the Drogos.
I mean, you put Fish Echo on 2 of his essentially signature champions when it comes down to it. The Eevee does well, and surprise, surprise, the Drogos does well. I believe opening the game essentially with a triple kill. And then Hecate, 14-5, doing a ton of damage in there as well. The highest credits as well earned throughout all of this. And that's one of the things that comes through. The fact that they're flexing around as much as they have, and the way he's playing, I mean, this, in my mind, is not necessarily an easy matchup. You can see him kind of playing at range, but I mean, if Bomb King Tyra get in your face like that, normally you're in trouble, but they were just not prioritizing him. He was almost always safe.
That's a very aggressive dragon too, but this is a game-ending dragon. This is the balance that you strike. The closer you get to the fight, the less distance your dragon has to cover, and the easier it is for you to get involved and literally just hard win the fight with it. But you open yourself up to being counterplayed, to being killed off. You can always kind of see where the dragon comes from, but Hecate spinning 360 dabs at this point, feeling very good.
And until the smiles came up afterward, I was going to say they even look kind of bored. Like, they come through, and like that's one of those things I don't think I would note that about a team unless they're winning like this, where it's just like they almost seem as though they're like, just another day in the box. Like, whatever, we're coming through. Oh, no, you let us get Amani. Like, they're just so relaxed about it overall. And so I'm looking at this, actually, some of the maps they went to the first time around. Ice Mines was not banned out. Shattered Desert was banned out. But Ice Mines, Splitstone Quarry, maps like Timber Mill, where things are a little more unique, is definitely going to be maybe where you can find your strong suit. But I wonder if they were watching yesterday. This is the same place the set ended for VP.
On this map, man.
They did really well. It was a 4-2. And they went for the Strix over the Kinessa. I mean, everything that they got was strong. I'm wondering how the Knights are going to approach this draft.
And from my own personal point of view, yesterday it felt like, Fisheko was doing a lot of the DPS and a lot of the carrying until Timbermill. And granted, he had a nutty game on Cassie on this map, but it was finally like Hecate got a sniper, and he really started to show us why he has the reputation that he has. He dominated Ares in the sniper v sniper matchup. And part of that was a big translation into the rest of the league, but maybe the Knights have something up their sleeve as they ban out both Kinessa and Strix with first pick. VP will not have Hecate in that spot any longer.
Well, this is where it gets interesting. I think when you come down to it, first off, I never would have guessed a team with Ricotta would ban out snipers on Timber Mill. But coming into this, you have to look at, I want to say, the next best. I think Amani is going to be very big here. Torvald is available as well. And if you don't grab one or the other, you're going to be giving that to VP. You also have Khan on the table and Genos available as well. There's enough champions at this point that you can't lock everyone in. And they opt for the Genos. But that means Torvald, this isn't going to be the best map, I think, for Torvald, but Virtus.Pro could grab him if they want him.
Well, the Genos first pick is not something we're 4-2 at this point for the Knights. Torvald is available, you're right. Front lines, you got to be careful with which ones you pick, because unlike a lot of other maps, this map is rarely decided by the front line, in my opinion.
Yeah.
There's so much high ground, and there's so much covered mid-ground. I don't know if you want to call it low ground at that point, but there's so much that the frontliners just can't control on this point fight.
I think we're actually in a position, and this is the awkward spot. I think Virtus.Pro have to grab Eevee here. I think Payan can play the Eevee well enough on this map that Genos Eevee is a big threat. And I think Amani, like the reason I keep mentioning Amani and not Cassie, not Leon, is just the no damage fall off thing, right? If you need someone who's going to play kind of the sniper role in the sniper position, she might be one of the best ones to put up there. But there's just so many good champions available right now and so many that can make a difference on this map. I like the Eevee call though. Gets it away from the Genos combo and it gets fishy on something he's already shown today he's good at.
Yeah, we've seen a couple of pips on Timbermill. I wouldn't go so far as to say Bomb King or Drogos is a staple here. So what will Payan play at this point is the question. The Knights haven't yet to pick a frontliner. There's a lot of them open. Could still go for the Inara, the Barrack, the Ashe, all that sort of stuff is open. Ashe was played here. Pretty highly contested pick yesterday. A lot of room for improvement because she has a lot of scenic routes to take if she wants to flank. You got to go all the way back around to that sort of teleporter to get up to the high ground where the enemies are going to be. But that's only if there's snipers, and there's no snipers. There's just Leon, which she's going to be looking to fill basically that role. Those full-scaling eminence shots are going to still hit for 1200, which is about what you're expecting from either the Talon rifle or the energy rifle from Kinessa and Strix.
Man, I'm really upset. I wanted to see a Rakata sniper versus
upset?
Hecate sniper. Like, that would have been like, that's just
didn't
every
want that
single
smoke.
time you have these guys that come through, I want to see that because I think it's just so fun to have that engagement. And it's one of those things I almost only want to watch the snipers in the matchup. I don't even care about the point fight. I just want to know how they're going to do. But they get Maldamba and Nara here. Flex pick saved for the very end. Genos Leon Barrack.
Andro did?
So flex for
You smelling an
DPS
Andro?
and a front line.
What they've done really well is
Hello?
get two great frontliners, Khan and Inara, without having to grab any like low mobility backline DPS, right? There's nobody really to dive on this VP roster so far. And they go for the Bomb King. Cassie's still available for VP, and that's something Hecate has been a pretty big fan of. Shaolin as well is something that you might not be surprised to see on Timbermill. Not a ton of people are playing Shaolin. We saw Alex messing around with it a little bit. A couple of other guys along the way. Na'Vi have messed with it a little bit.
NIP even ran like a Buck Eevee, I think, at one point. They could do that.
Yeah, Buck perhaps. Buck's just been so out of the meta for so long. I don't know if Hecate's got it in the pool.
Yeah.
On his old team, Fuzzy Logic was basically always playing that. But it is possible. Thinking long and hard. And that's Timbermill's got to be one of the most difficult maps to draft on just because it's so different than everything else.
And also, I
Hear
mean,
my
admittedly,
call.
I think the last couple days we've seen it more than we've seen pretty much in the Premier League altogether. Like, it doesn't come by too often. But he does, instead of opting for the Cassie, which was open, or any of the other flanks that you could potentially go, does go for the Amani with the damage, or no damage fall off. So how do you feel about this matchup, I guess, between the Amani and the Leon?
Yeah, I mean, Cassie doesn't have any damage fall off either, but
True.
I feel like what Amani brings is just so much more utility to a team fight. The Dragon ultimate, you know, Ziggs is great, but he's the inferior bird in this case. I think Amani, not necessarily on paper hard better for any of these matchups against the Knights, but I feel like at this point you're looking at the rhythm that Hecate's
Yeah.
in. Third game in a row, he's had 2 great games on it. There's an element of
Keep
if it's
him
not
going.
broke, don't fix it.
And that's exactly, I think, what they're aiming for. Bomb King, how do you feel about that on Timbermill, just as a general rule?
It's
of
going to
thumb?
be tough because
Everyone's, 3 stories above you.
getting the fact that there's no snipers definitely helps.
Yeah.
He doesn't have to worry about that. Bomb King is a mid to close range character, so it's all about how Payan moves around this map. Maybe follow Ashe and make her rotations effective.
Well, it's going to be Timbermill coming into this. Virtus.Pro versus the Knights. They're up 2-0 on the side of Virtus.Pro, so let's see if they can close out a third by going to Timbermill.
Down to the mill we go for game number 3. No snipers, though. How often do you see that on Timbermill?
We don't see Timbermill often enough.
I guess that's true. How
But
often
yeah.
do you see Timbermill?
Yeah, I guess that's a better question.
And
not often enough.
Third in a set here. What are your thoughts? Why go Timbermill? Map number 3. I guess this is your second choice.
This is a map I think Pittsburgh Knights have had success on in the past. That's what
That's
it is.
true.
And I think they feel that it's one of the only maps that might give them an advantage. And I think they're desperately looking for it. And if you're going to find it, you need to find it in Game 3. Finding it in Game 4 would be too late. because who expects them to be able to beat Virtus.Pro 4 games in a row? I don't think anybody does. So you've got to start turning the tide now.
Definitely, that's one way to look at it. I agree. It's sort of a do-or-die game number 3 here. Reverse sweeps are not common. Don't know if we've seen a single one yet coming into this. Vex is going to open things up on the Damba, interestingly enough. Going to be the one to find first blood. 32. 45% now. 54 as I stumbled over my words. Virtus.Pro, they're on the point. Pan's going to answer back with one onto the Bomb King. That's kind of been the question that Gore raised is how's Bomb King looking on a map like Timbermill?
He really controls Cubbies well. He has great utility on the point, which sometimes you need to stand on desperately, but a Grumpy Bomb a lot of times will force you away or into an awkward spot. I think that he overall has a lack of range, though, and that's really what you need in this map to be able to compete. Otherwise, you're just too isolated in the moments that they'll allow you to succeed, and that's what I'm worried about for Pan. Pula here doing some work on a Dethroner.
Yeah, it's kind of been the story of this game so far. Pule just running down the members of the Knights. That's another quick first point capture here. I mean, this is really where the Knights need to plant the flag, I think. Depending on how this defense goes, could be a good indicator. Well, I mean, of course the rest of the map, but the rest of the set. This is where you need to show some fight. You lose an early first point. You got to find some defense. Got to find a little damage with the Ice Storm, but just buy some zoning.
And this is really starting to give us some more storyline of what the narrative is for the season, because Pittsburgh Knights, like we mentioned earlier, took a win off of Virtus.Pro in week 1. And Virtus.Pro admittedly said, we are not the same team. I mean, we were not who we were going to be at that point. One of the weirdest interactions I feel like I've seen. Felt like Khan overpowered himself into a shoulder bash.
Ooh, Pan.
I mean, that's exactly what it looked like, but maybe just whiffed.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a head scratcher.
Felt like he got sucked to Ash, didn't it?
It did.
Look at Vex's face. He's like, I don't know.
It's like one of those, he was moving that direction, Ash was moving the opposite, so it's like it almost, I don't know.
Like he's well, maybe he missed and then tried a commander's grab.
Right.
That might have been it.
Here we go. Throw that one out there.
We'll just stick with that until proven otherwise. But yeah, I mean, this is, like I was mentioning it for that day before that happened. The fact is, this is like, is this what should have happened, so to speak, in Virtus.Pro's mind? And is this setting him up for a pretty decent run at the end of the season?
I mean, a lot of these teams are sort of some things each team had to come over. That's a good Dread Serpent's going to send G-Bunny right into the waiting arms of Pule. The kill's not going to come through, though. Ricotta's able just to kind of sit back and free fire up on that stand right now. The frontliners of the Knights doing a great job of holding down this payload area, and everyone else just kind of has to, hang out behind them. Payne's able to get aggressive again on the Bomb King. He stalls this one out.
And great stuff from Ricotta and Payne to push at the right time. This is definitely where they will have their most success. But on those point fights, it's going to be tough. It's going to be so much in Ricotta's hands, and how aggressive Payne is willing to get. It's going to be high risk, high reward, because BK up close, he will win these matchups, but he's just not able to be as consistent as these projectile characters on the side of VP from that far. Luckily, though, it looks like they're going to get another chance 1-1 unless Doseps and Virtus.Pro are able to push this one through, and he's inching it forward, still full health. Goes into the earthen guard right now.
Could be over before it even started, since Ricotta found the first one, putting damage in on the Doseps. Payne's going to be the one to find that one. And the Knights, they find themselves a defensive stand. It's the Payne and Ricotta show here on defense. A little help from the Genos heals as well. Cuss Cutie flexing his support muscles in this case.
So maybe just misses and into the commander's grab. It looks like that's what happened.
Yeah, I think that's
even though, because we were watching from Ash's perspective, we got the 3P, the sound. It was kind of a funny dynamic there, but definitely feels like just a
sent
whiff.
the eyes spinning for a moment.
Sent the eyes spinning.
All I saw was Pan killing a lot of people.
Yeah,
and
I saw
then
that too.
Some weird interaction on the opposite end.
Saw that too.
Yeah, look at Ricotta. I mean, he took this. He had the advantage of being on the defensive end, just having people coming to you for 2.5 minutes, basically. But really taking this game over, at least damage-wise. A couple bulldozers coming out as well to deal with the dragon. But the 3 guys you want on streaks are on streaks. You got a little front line, a little healer, a little damage, a little of everything for the Knights going into this point fight.
Atlas not been huge in the set, but Monty certainly has, and it's one of those admittedly things. Nice root there as well to shut down the shoulder bash. Takes the cooldown also. This time we know an overpower went down, but who cares, because G-Bunny's still alive, and Pule is the one who falls thanks to Pan and the pressure. So really good turn of events there, and now G-Bunny has a direct access to the back line.
Beautiful turnaround there, but Virtus.Pro, they're still sitting on the point. The Dread Serpent's going to send Pan off the edge and back to base. That's another good route, and Virtus.Pro, they never had to leave the point. They were losing the fight initially, but never had to leave the point.
And they're doing a great job. That's also why I phrase it the way, how aggressive Pan's willing to get. Because if you get that kill, awesome. You're definitely taking the point. But if you don't, and in that situation, Vex is waiting with that Dread Serpent on the high ground, and just so luckily forces him to the low ground as well. He could have had a lot of angles that kept him up there. But, man, then he wastes his life, and no one is able to contest. They were hoping for that final kill, then to snowball on the point. Just never got it.
This is where we saw the Knights really hold strong, and they're off to the same exact start as last time. Is this just a better composition defensively for the Knights, do you think, on the defensive end?
I think this composition definitely excels when you have to go to them.
Right.
A lot of great champions with Luminary buff. I mean, absolutely. It also makes Dethroner's life a little easier, and Ash's life a little easier, as those long-range shots less reliable than the mid-range on those weapons for the front line. But I think Virtus.Pro here have got another try. Wow, what a combo. 800 and probably 800. Finishing off Pan early. They've got another try at this, so I actually think this push might go a little better for them.
I mean, they start off on a better foot finding a pick, and the Dragon survives just a little bit extra. Dethroner doesn't die yet, but the Dragon's going to burn through the bowling ball just the same. Now they're back up here on this side. Ricotta's so low here, gets behind the saw, stays alive. That's a big way to stay alive there for Ricotta. Instead, the damage is flipped on its head. Poulet is going to get Pan's damage right into his face. Dosups, though, he finds the Leon. She wasn't able actually to escape, and that's going to be a good stun. The seismic crash is good. Dethroner answers back with a kill. But this one's going back and forth. At the moment, Virtus.Pro have a little more damage.
Doe almost gets baited because Pan is on the high ground, and that initial seismic crash is probably aimed up there, but as Pan falls, Dosups makes the adjustment. Beautiful stuff there to get the stun. G-Bunny forced him to his ult as a response, and admittedly, that's a little bit of a better one, especially going into this next round. So I think Virtus.Pro come out on top.
I think so as well. They have to back off here. They find a pick, so I mean, they'll have one more good sort of college try at this one. Some ultimates ready if they really feel. Oh my, that's some burst damage. There's a headshot and a little bit of extra for Ricotta, but he gets traded out just the same from Poulet. Dosups now just corralling this cart right into the base of the Pittsburgh Knights. Some shields coming out. They have a lot of shields to work through here.
Wow, they're
King Bomb, so they're and a dome shield. They're investing so much into this defense, but the kills are coming up on the opposite side. All the kills coming up red, and so many ults coming out from blue. Virtus.Pro could push this one through, and they could take point number 3.
And it has to be an overpower that whiffed. I mean, it was at 32% after I looked up after those ultimates. I don't know where that King Bomb started. I certainly know it didn't end near that point, but somehow Pan was alive. Maybe he canceled it early. It just didn't do anything. Vex with such a clutch Dread Serpent there. Kate following up, just security. And you're right, uncontested. Pittsburgh never even touched the point. That's just a day late and a dollar short. I don't know how else to describe it.
I mean, that's tough. I mean, you throw out ults to keep it from going through, and then immediately the kills start coming out from Virtus.Pro. I mean, doomed seemingly from the start, or at least the start of the end there for the Knights. But now 1 point away from making this a 3-0. In our second set of the day. Ice Storm is the only ult ready for Virtus.Pro, and only through time and space ready. So yeah, the King Bomb, the Dome Shield both getting used. Assert dominance a little earlier in that final fight as well.
Yeah.
So that's good from Virtus.Pro, whether it's bait, whether it's reactionary, whatever it is. Pittsburgh threw a lot of ults at the wall, but not many of them stuck.
I mean, a winner from yesterday and someone who lost their set from yesterday, admittedly very happy to have taken down SSG.
Yeah.
Very, very upset to have lost to NIP was Pittsburgh, and we wondered if they could bounce back, but it might have just been too much to ask for the day after that 4-0.
Yep.
And Dave, we're in the end game now.
I mean, that's what I talked about going into this game with those guys. It's like you're both mentally and a little physically tired, but for different reasons. Don't forget, Virtus.Pro, they had a 7-game set, but they won it. That's weight off your shoulders. Pittsburgh had a tough day because they lost a 4-0. I mean, those are mentally tough, don't get me wrong, but for very different reasons. Virtus.Pro, I mean, they had the momentum. The end of the day ended with a win. They have the momentum Game number 3 goes in the books. Hecate, well, he dabs after every win, seemingly. This game is no different. Virtus.Pro, they're looking good.
Fishy waiting to look at his stats, be like, did I pop off as much as I thought? Yeah, I did. Heck yeah. And, you know, we looked at, there was a lot of, you know, if you follow any of the Paladins players, a lot on the timeline talking about, you know, people being upset, mixer chat, casuals not knowing things and that. You know what? I relate. I understand.
Yeah.
Anybody who does stuff
Right.
on the internet, you understand that happens. You have to just, you know, and it's clear the frustration. Sometimes it feels good to voice it. But you
You
could tell
have
it
to,
was
right.
weighing on their mind. Maybe it weighed on their play. But it's not really about Pittsburgh right now. It's about Virtus.Pro getting 2 big wins. I mean, SSG and being able to find a Pittsburgh Knights team that beat them before, return the favor, even up that in case anything gets funky towards the end of the split. Very big week for them.
No, absolutely. I mean, you look at the teams playing this week, NIP, Virtus.Pro, you have Pittsburgh as well. I mean, the teams all playing this week. I mean, this is a big week for all these teams. These are some statement games to be made here. Virtus.Pro, they're making a huge statement here today. They go 3-0 in our second set of this Friday. Let's go back to the desk.
I honestly don't know how to break that one down much more than that. That was just not a Timber Mill draft, or at least if that was what they were going for coming into it. It did not work out the way they wanted it to. It definitely felt like VP kind of from the end of the draft into the game. Just all of that translated from the very beginning.
Yeah, there was a couple of great moments from Leon, certainly finding some big picks from distance.
Definitely.
But when you pick like Bomb Kings and stuff like that, you definitely limit yourself to be able to fight, again, very specific spots on Timber Mill. And a lot of which is what Timber Mill is just like open fields and prairies and golden dandelions and things like that. You can't really swing on those distances, man. You got to be in the boxes, kind of bobbing and weaving. 47K damage for Pay in there. He still manages to put up some decent numbers there, but if you look at the difference, getting him almost doubled by Rukata, getting beat by almost 20K by even Dethroner, it's tough stuff to be able to stay involved with the Bomb King on Timbermill.
I mean, I'd even say not only did Rukata do insane amounts of damage, but I mean 10-4-9, like he was in this game heavily. And, I mean, he out-damaged pretty much everyone on the side of Virtus.Pro. Pan out-damaged Hecate. Like, a lot of people, when it came down to it, were nowhere able to match that. Pan was right on par with Virtus.Pro. It's just, there was no point fight. There was no map control. When it came down to playing Timber Mill, that draft wasn't able to do really anything.
A lot of healing from Vex as well. He definitely bailed him out through some tough situations. Look at the way they stay together. They kind of move as a unit. Nobody's ever like too far away. Even looking at Fasheko's EV, like he's always realistically within arm's reach, I think, of the rest of the squad. And that's been an adjustment to make. Is that gourd actually? If that gourd landed on the point, that would have been sick. Actually, that's big angles.
The flick toss up into the air, and then like a perfect amount of time that by the time it starts healing and when its healing has disappeared, you have the gourd back, so you just toss it back down. Maybe playing around with that. But Vex making a big difference. That's actually the second time today. I would even say Mitau earlier in the SSG set, even though, again, they didn't get to win, made a pretty big difference on the Moldamba. And I think the last couple days, that's where it's been. It's like if Genos gets banned, which so far he actually hasn't, normally Moldamba's been very impactful. That was the story yesterday. Now, Genos is making it through for the Knights, and it's still not really making the difference that you would expect.
There is definitely a lot of stuff to look at. Timbermill's kind of weird, man. There's a lot of stuff that goes on there.
Yeah.
It has never really been a very highly map or a very high play rate map in any of our kind of top leagues, tier 1 scenes. That's always like the game 6, game 7 type of deal. That's not really where we're at right now. This is a potential 4-0 for VP. This is a big game, not only coming off their best of 7 win against SSG yesterday, but the fact that they could grab 4 maps straight here. Map differential has been a bigger conversation in these leagues this year than ever before, so being able to get out of here cleanly 4-0 is a big thing, and why VP needs to keep their foot on the gas and close this one out.
I mean, at this point, there's so much that can break down into draft, I feel like, for Splitstone Quarry. I think we actually could look at a little bit of Timber Mill. And that's actually one of the things I was gonna say. The first time these two went up against each other, Splitstone was the map they went to. But map 1 or week 1, week 2, maybe some week 3 Splitstones. They haven't gone there in a long time.
Yeah, I feel like I haven't seen Splitstone in
3
like
or 4
2 weeks, man.
yeah.
Like it's been a hot minute, for sure. But here we are, 3 frontliners and a Genos band away. Khan, Atlas, Makoa, Genos. Knights have been first picking Genos whenever they've had the opportunity to, or very highly thereafter. They'll grab themselves the Torvald.
There it is.
First time he's been open today. He gets snapped up. So will they look to run back the Pip or the Bomb King? What will they pair with this? A lot of good options certainly on Splitstone. Splitstone can be played in a lot of different ways, whether you want to draft a pretty immobile backline that sits kind of up on the high. You can grab yourself a flanker to get through lava and sort of pressure the enemy backline, high ground, things like that. Or we've seen, you know, this was more popular when Grover was unbanned, but
here.
Grover would allow for compositions that stacked pretty heavily under the rocky quarry bleachers right on top of the objective, where nobody could really push into there safely if you had 4 or 5 members of your team there, all being AoE healed. The double dab there for VP as they steal away the Inara Bomb King.
First dab, definitely more energy than the second dab in there for Hagate.
Yeah, the energy of the dabs maybe starting to wane a little bit here.
But you have to wonder if it's waning from energy output. Is it waning from, well, hey, we're about to win. Do I need to dab as hard on them? Never know.
Grab the Imani Damba here for the Knights. VP,
Yeah.
first time Fishy, isn't going to be playing Eevee or Drogos. He's moving to the Bomb King for the first time this set. The Latam boys feeling good about the way this set has gone so far. Obviously up 3-0. VP in a good spot to keep it rolling here. Genos banned away, so Mr. Vex will have to play something else, whether that is a Furia, a Ceres, or a Ying, has yet to be seen. We've seen him, you know, display the ability to play any and all of those.
This is going to be the weirdest thing that I picked out of everything you just said, but you know, it has to start with a setup. You know those like montages of things that are like, it's all the build up to something about to happen and then it cuts off right before the actual thing happens. I want to the song like where they just go, keep rolling, but with Bomb King ults, and he never ults. Like you just see him rolling on different maps all the time. And then at the very end, you get one just explosion. Where it's all of the previous explosions stacked on top of each other.
Well, Gore, we'll see if we can get that in the works.
Hey, there's Barrett Cassie. So back to this game instead of whatever is going on in my mind. Maybe the same thing that's going on in Virtus.Pro's mind, because the day, it's not done, but admittedly the Knights haven't given me a reason to think that this is going to be some crazy come around.
Well, they do have this Eevee. That will be something new for Payan as well. He can maybe get up on the high ground, pressure this Cassie. That's what we talked about. Being able to make those big rotations and put pressure onto the back line is something that's been pretty critical. But I don't know how long, who I assume to be Hecate, will kind of just sit up here. He is a pretty backline guy at heart. But have to be aware of the Eevee. Whether or not he runs Impulse or Big Game is yet to be seen. With Torvald on the board, not the highest HP tank, he might be more concerned with this Eevee and look to run an Impulse and be able to blow her up more effectively.
Well, support is all that they need on the side of Virtus.Pro. No Genos available means that you have to dive a little deeper into your pocket. Could be a Ceres, which we have seen a few times from Vex. Could be a Furia, which we've seen a few times in the last couple of weeks, although I've definitely not seen her be anywhere near as successful as she once was. Or you could go for maybe something a little more on the side. I'm forgetting some of the other supports. I remember having one I wanted to see yesterday.
I mean, Furia Ying Ceres is really all I'm realistically
That's where I
expecting
want to be. I want to see a Ying.
You want to get that Ying? Well,
I just think she matches Maldamba pretty well.
I was leaning Ceres here, but he is going to go for the Furia. These beams have got to be on point. Probably one of the highest risk, highest reward support builds is that Solar Blessing Furia, where the big beam out goes out. Your Pyre Strike is no longer defensive, where you're looking at, or offensive, I guess you should say, when you're looking to hit enemies, stun them out, do some damage to them, but it's now defensive. You can throw it on a teammate, and they just get showered thousands and thousands of health per second in that way.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see if she can come through. I know a couple of teams like Na'Vi have been trying her out. Let's see if Virtus.Pro can make it work as we jump down to the casters to take us to Splitstone Corey.
No.
Splitstone Corey?
Oh, wait, what?
What? No,
Huh?
you go.
Yes.
You go.
Yes, absolutely. I have full faith.
I think so. I mean, if the games continue the way they have. What?
Huh?
What? Sorry?
Dave, stop cutting me off. Jeez, man, I'm trying to cast.
Yeah, cast.
Yeah,
Look at us.
I'm trying.
Dave and Evan standing in the booth right now.
In the booth. Trying to cast Dave and Evan casting.
Listen to them casting themselves. That's
Incredible
a great
stuff.
cast from Dave.
Cutting over Dave a little bit here, but Dave keeps on going with the laugh. Hits him up with a follow-up chuckle.
Drew back and forth.
And a mute.
Hey, honestly though, when was the last time we saw Splitstone Corey? It's been a minute.
Not today.
What do we say to Splitstone Corey?
Not today.
Not today.
Except today, we say today.
Today, right now.
Yeah.
In this moment.
It's them real high-res hours somehow. It happened. Skill shot hours.
Skill shot hours, that's right.
Excuse me.
Talk to me a little bit about the Furia here. How you feeling about it? Risk reward, I think, is a good way of describing it.
Well, to continue in the silly land, I would have said it makes me furious, but I'm kind of not really feeling that way. I think Vex really likes Furia, and he has a great plan. But Soul's Lesson's coming very soon. But it's just too late.
Nearly.
We knew what they wanted to do, but it just couldn't make it happen. And Payan pops off here early on. Custody on the Damba as well. Pittsburgh trying to do everything to steal back momentum, and it seems like at least in round one they have.
Fortunately, the beam does not resurrect you once you've died, because I think the moment that Pule went down on the barrack, the beam crossed over. Get a couple stuns there, but seemingly for the first time in this set, the Knights have really gained control of the point and zoned out the rest of Virtus.Pro here. Here comes the retake attempt, though. It's going to happen at around 85% for the Knights. The beam's going to come through, top off a little bit, but G-Bunny finds another kill. We haven't really talked about the Torvald. He came through as well. But at the moment, the Knights are the ones controlling this game.
Usually there's nothing more important than catching that beam. Vex is going to put it so close to you that you're really only going to have to maybe stretch out your fingertips. You're not going to have to run an extra yard. And at this point, you can see that it has been working for Puleole and for Doseps. But Pittsburgh losing a little bit of that pressure on the side of the Eevee could be troublesome. Doseps finds G-Bunny, and that Torvald is a big part of their strategy.
That's a quiet retake here from Doseps. The rest of the fighting is going on in the mill area, and he just camped out on the point and got his team up there. Overtime's going to come out, as well as the Dread Serpent. Catches just a little bit, but maybe not as much utility as they had hoped. Pule's back now, and he's planting himself onto the point. Some ultimates now starting to pop either way, but the damage is coming out. He catches the beam with the rocket boots, and look at that, back up to full health here for Pule. But he's face tanking 3 members. The Knights, with a concerted effort, they shut down Pule, and they grab point number 1.
And great stuff. Payan is playing really well. I mean, Akata gets a heal. He still kills him through it, hitting all his shots, connecting very directly. Ricotta on the Amani, which has been in the hands of Virtus.Pro most, if not all, of this set. Pittsburgh have something going here.
They do.
And they are putting Virtus.Pro to the test.
Here's the upside. They do have a great offense going. The downside, this is pretty hard to push here on Splitstone. So, you know, you go here for a reason, maybe because you realize you're going to stack some points on defense. Unfortunately, well, I guess fortunately, you get the point on offense. Furia ult's going to give a little boost to the rest of the Virtus.Pro guys. Fishy's going to find a kill as a result, but Ricotta, he's going to stop that one right where it stands. Doseps and Hecate getting in on the action as well. Virtus.Pro, they plant their flag and say this payload is not moving any further forward. So 4 ultimates ready. Actually, the aggression really continues. This is seemingly a never-ending fight now.
Yeah.
But Payan, he's going to fall after using the ice.
Good stuff here across the board. I like the adjustment from PK. I like VP also stabilizing with an early Inflame just to make sure that they can have this high ground without contest, force Pittsburgh Knights all the way back. And it's going to charge up relatively quickly as well. That damage boost, that movement speed, 30% for both, for about 8 seconds. It's an incredibly strong ultimate we don't often see on display due to Furia's in and out of the meta. And really one of the things that brought her back more so than anything was just getting that extra second that was tacked onto her right click, the Cherish. Basically off again, like where it used to be. It was nerfed and then like unnerfed. And it's opened her up a little bit more, and now she gets a buff, I think, next patch as well.
We saw Navi, we saw Spunky play Furia a good bit. Now making its way into the Virtus.Pro lineup. The Dragon coming out, maybe not as much bulldozer needed to take it out, but there's comes some of the burst damage. Back down goes the Dragon, but what it did buy, didn't find any kills, found a little bit of damage, but it did buy space for the Knights to be able to round this corner. Now they're taking the fight in maybe a slightly more favorable position, but Vex just hangs out up top. He got rooted, but the damage wasn't there to kill off the healer. Instead, he finds a kill for himself. And Pacheco's just hanging out up top here, teeing off on the members down below.
Payan really is just essentially carrying the pressure for this team. Ricotta banking off of it, and he's doing a good job on the Amani, but Payan finding early kills, staying alive so much, and G-Bunny and his tandem duo really is what's causing issues for Virtus.Pro. That's what happens when you let Torvald, you know, out into a lineup.
Yeah.
But Virtus.Pro feel confident enough to deal with it. And I'd love to take a look at some damage numbers after this, because one thing that Furia does do better than almost every support, and even better than Genos a lot of the times, is do damage. We see Dambas and Genos have 20,000 after maybe the rest of the game, maybe towards the end of it all. This is 22,000 damage in less than 5 minutes of play. So Furia, she can She can make it happen.
She absolutely can. Picking up a little wrecker as well to get through a couple of the shields. Look at that, almost full red build for the Virtus.Pro side. Kronos Master riding the only yellows. They're going to make sure to clean up that dragon, and then a bulldozer too for Vex as well. They just don't want to deal with the dragon at all. They want a couple shots to go into it.
So valuable.
And that sort of to be the end of it. I mean, on one hand, if you're on the Knights, you have an Imani on your team, you're forcing the enemy team to buy a couple extra items.
Yeah.
But it's such a valuable item to get. It really helps stifle one of the enemy's ultimates.
Oh, and here's a perfect opportunity. You get a little bit of a solar blessing into the dome shield. Hyper beam here from Torvald. G-Bunny and Pain are going to find a couple kills, but Lily starts it off. Cuscuti gets a nice stun. He's going to have his rocket boots, but he can't get him off. The second he drops below 30%, he drops into death. So that's what Burst will do. Great stuff from Pittsburgh.
I was going to say, that's the aggressive barrack that often pays off. He found a kill, found some damage, ended up getting cleaned up by the Pain Torvald 1-2 punch there. They do have a chance to retake here. Only the Immortal ready. Rounding this higher ground here.
Oh, watch out, watch
the
out,
ultimate as
watch
well.
out.
45% though, the engagement's coming in on the back end. Here's the fight, here's the damage. Standing in that solar blessing, Pacheco's just keeping himself alive. It's all happening inside of this mill right here. This is where a Bomb King wants to be. And he pours on the damage and wins his team this fight.
I mean, there wasn't really, this is barrel stuffing your opponent for sure.
Right.
They just throw that damage amp, that movement amp into the faces of Pittsburgh Knights and say, what are you going to do about it? And Pittsburgh aptly replies with, not much, because there's not much we can do.
We're going to die about it.
Yeah, we're going to die about it. How about that, huh? That'll teach him.
It was like Vex was soaring up above, the ultimate came out, and then it was just kind of quiet for a moment, and then you immediately go inside the mill.
Yeah.
Where Pacheco is just teeing off on everyone around him.
And he's got a solar blessing, so he's like getting full heal. He's just, I mean,
just chilling and throwing bombs, and that's life for a Bomb King player right there. That's all you can hope for.
It certainly is. So much damage now from bulldozers too.
I mean, if you had to point at one thing, was there anything that really changed for Virtus.Pro from point fight 1 to point fight 2 that allowed them to take that one?
That early dome shield and the early reset from the solar blessing. It's rare, but that will get caught on the opponent above him. Furia can't take advantage of that self-healing, but she does heal from some of her loadout cards as she's healing her teammates. But yeah, it was really just the fact that the solar blessing reset actually worked. Remember that first time it was like, and Puliole died.
Right.
But now that they actually had that to play with, that's what Furia is about. You hit the beam, you win a lot. If you don't hit it, that's your moment of vulnerability.
Right.
So that's what really changed.
Worked out in this case. Any of those cards jumping out at you is interesting?
Yeah, Burning Oath is where we were just mentioning that. Running Solar Flare 3, we've seen a lot of players, and if you're in a casual environment, maybe run Solar Flare 5 because it's not as easy to communicate with your front line. A little less health than usual, but have to run that Light Forge 5. And one of the things that's great about it is just stoking the fire, too. Getting the Wings of Wrath, getting away from enemies, and then getting basically 6 seconds off of that Pyre.
Vex making the Furia look good. I mean, it's been really an on and off game for both teams. At the moment, the Knights are the ones who are on. Both teams having one chance at an offense, one chance at a defense as well. 35 seconds left here for the Knights to try to hold on to this one. Virtus.Pro, slight ultimate advantage, I would say. The Immortal's back, the Dragon will be back soon, as well as the Hyper Beam. But you imagine with 20 seconds left, barring some sudden picks, both teams will really turn their eyes towards this next point fight.
15 seconds remaining.
Well, that's kind of what they're looking to do here to round the corner.
I think G-Bunny and Pan have been a very dynamic duo. It's unfortunate that as we say it, Pan goes down to Hikate.
Yeah.
I think G-Bunny's levels have been just on point, man. And you can see, yep, here's the Dragon coming from Amani, but Rakata already low, 700 health, one shot, and will be down. And yep, there it is, the Dragon no longer. Pan getting into the fight, but now they've also lost one on the side of Virtus.Pro, so Pittsburgh should be able to stabilize here.
You would hope so. The frontliner's down, so that's going to be tough for them to get this one pushed through. Pacheco's just pouring out damage. He catches the worst end of the trade against Rakata, who now has a double, a triple make that to end this round on the Imani. Really helping the fight. The Dragon didn't find a whole lot of value aside from a little bit of damage, but the Imani, the actual character, the kid, he played that one to a T. A nice triple here. And Dethroner, he found a double in this case. He's had a quiet, good day, I think. I mean, he's frontliners kind of inherit, I think, a lot of what's going on around them, and in this case, Dethroner really able to make use of that Fernando kit.
And when you think of Dethroner and his champion pool, you really do think of Fernando. You really do think of Ashe. You really do think of Inara. You know, he's obviously played a ton of Barrack, as who hasn't in the frontline role, but not necessarily you don't think of those Ruckus. You don't necessarily think of Khan. I think that his real introduction to this pro scene was very, very successful with those aggro-style Fernando and Ashe plays. But as that shifted a little bit, his role shifted for this team. He's getting aggressive here, but he's going to have Immortal, like you said. Maybe a little too early because the guess was wrong. Bonky did not go his way, and now he's been stunned. He's got to get some healing here, and he's just saying, do I dive even more? Good shield, though, to min-maxes.
Yeah, it's tough. He dies off. The fidget spinner's going to get Cuscutie into the spinner, though. That's a hyper beam from G-Bunny to get rid of a couple. Right into the fidget spinners they go. Vex, he's the one who finds the final kill in this fight, though. That was tough from Dethroner. The Dome Shield came out. The Immortal came out as a bit of a response, as well as the King Bomb. Again, he had so much thrown at him. But what really came down to it is he was fighting in the beam there from Furia. So he got stunned, as well as the healing coming through for Poulet. That's a hard hill to climb. He falls here as well. That's going to make it tough for the Knights to answer back. They don't have their point tank to contest right now.
Yeah, but Payan finds Akate, so what can he do? Fishy is one shot away. Rakata finds him. I mean, Payan and Rakata doing so much. Are you kidding me? Dosage, if he picks up this play, this kill, I mean, that was just so much value for them. And you can tell they are worried about Payan. He is popping off today. So much damage here. And this Eevee has definitely, in my opinion, been the key for Pittsburgh Knights to succeed.
Yeah, Payan, Rakata, the 1-2 on their team. It's been one, it's been the other. In this case, it's both. They retake the point, but they still have so much time to go through. They invested so much to retake that. Virtus.Pro, they don't have ultimates either. The Dread Serpent will be back. That'll be the next ultimate up in this fight.
Fish, what you doing?
66% though. The Knights still have a little bit of ground to cover to capture this one.
And I think, you know, they're under pressure, man, and Dosage's going to stand on the point. He's going to back off. He's going to force them to be there. They have to contest, and here's the beam. It's actually in a pretty decent spot. He can contest. But remember, only 600 health. You need to be doing 600 damage per second to start mitigating into it, and they've done more than that. Payan with a big kill onto Inara.
Yeah, but Fasheko's found the flank. He's around the backside of all of the Knights right now, and they can't really turn and focus on him. They have too much on their plate in front of him right now, and he hits some big shots. Payan's going to fall. But now it's up to Rakata to carry the damage for the rest of the Knights in this case. Fasheko's alive, but they don't get a touch. That's all they needed. Furia went down. Poulet went down as well. Josephs wasn't in a position to try to get a touch on that point, so the Knights, they get the better of that one. Maybe not an overwhelming team fight win, but they find the important kills, and they win point number 3.
I think he was overwhelmed there. That Inflame kicked off. Had a ton of damage and hides around that corner at about 80% health when he needs to go touch the point. He does at that point have a Grumpy Bomb. Not sure if he has his King Bomb charged up completely, though he did at the very end of the round before he died. And I just have to wonder, seeing Dosage charge back in maybe a second lane, if that was min-max. Don't think it was, but I think the overwhelm kind of got to it. It was kind of a scramble. I'm sure both players did the best they could. This time, though, Pittsburgh Knights a lot more consistent in that, and shout-outs to them. They're now a chance to win their first game as they're pushing.
That's the big thing to look at here. They're pushing with the potential to win game number 1 for themselves. This is game number 4 of the day, of course. But game number 1, that's a good Dread Serpent up onto the high ground. Oh, but Hakate is able to disengage. He gets cleaned up, though. Excuse me, he tumbles out. Rakata, though, finds the kill on the backside, so got some value from it at the end of the day. A double now from the Imani. Pasheko, though, he's alive. He's dealing damage as well. And Vex, he's able to hang back and get some healing in. But Payan, he finds the angle, and the healer is now down for Virtus.Pro, and the Knights are 5 strong.
I mean, you got to kill him. You have to kill him. Doe knows it. He's got to get him down. It's a little wiggle.
Wow.
He does the big thing, though. I mean, the Torvald means that there's no way they can defend here, especially with Payan getting resets like that. Hakate now has a chance. Now they can finally find him. The Thrower's got to back off. So yeah, that was huge. Doe, that's a captain type play right there. And outwits his opponents for now. 30 seconds left though. Things are getting real dicey.
Things
for
are tense
VP.
right now. Things are tense to say the least. I mean, there's so many people who live there on the side of Virtus.Pro where if deaths had come through, that very well could have gone through for the Knights. A couple kills getting traded back and forth. Both of the blasters have one. Dethroner throws the frontliners in the mix as well.
Big
It's going to be the solar beam.
Deal.
Wow, immediately topped off. Dethroner now. He's got the rest of the team behind him. G-Bunny drops Pacheco, who's out of this fight for 5 more seconds. They need to hold on to it. But that's a good Dread Serpent to drop him down now. They're pushing. They have the potential to win, but there's the Furia ult. That's going to get the rest of Virtus.Pro a little bit healthier, a little bit harder hitting right now. Can he clean up Cuss Cutie? That healer is so important hanging out in the back line, but he's not able to do it just yet.
Another huge
Hyper
beam! Oh, Pittsburgh steal it! They push him away, stolen out of their hands. What a hyper beam!
They're the Pittsburgh Steelers.
And that's all, folks. We're going home after that one.
They steal it away, as Steelers do. That's tough on the face of Virtus.Pro. I mean, don't forget, they're still up 3-1 here. But you have to give it to the Knights in this case. They fought back constantly. And honestly, I mean, that's a close game. That's a 4-3. But honestly, for the first time in this set, it really looked like Knights were the stronger team on that map.
You could tell there was a lot of frustration because Knights were the stronger team.
Yeah.
That's not a face of, oh, we just lost. You know, unfortunate. We've been kicking ass this entire set.
Yeah.
No, this is a face of we were really frustrated all game long. We never figured it out.
Yeah.
And we just lost to a really bad hyper beam. I mean, resilience might have been a big play. Obviously, they had to invest in a bulldozer, but you saw Payan getting out of all these, these Pyre strikes unscathed, getting into these G-Bunny bubbles. His resilience, pick up his ability to be supported by the Torvald, really set Pittsburgh Knights up for a win.
And they've found that win indeed. It's 3-1 here, so no 4-0 for our second set of the day. Let's send it back to the desk to get the next game rolling.
Well, it does come down to
Just
a Torvald
keep
pick.
rolling.
I mean, I was wondering that because I thought about it after we left the desk, and I was like, I didn't harp on Torvald as much as I normally would when he finally makes it through. And I think it's because yesterday SSG let it through twice, and they were able to beat it. And it almost looked like VP were going to be able to overcome it, but then that Hyper Beam is literally what wins the game.
Yeah, it's crazy. That's such a fun ultimate, especially when it's that critical overtime moment of the payload's about to be pushed or something big is about to happen. Those hyper beams they can really be irrelevant for such a long part of the game and then come through and win it all. It's very fun to watch. Cool character for sure. In that very just supporty off-tank type of role, Torvald can have such crazy impact, but you have to give some credit over to Payan as well. I thought for his first EV game in the set, he played very, very nicely.
And that was one of the things. I mean, when we've been looking at EV lately, and actually just earlier in the set, it was you don't want Genos EV on the same side. Well, for the same reason, you really don't want Torvald EV on the same side. You see the 160k shielding from the Torvald and 123k damage from Pan. Although it looked like that was like 160k there for Ricotta on this 24-8 Imani. The big difference between the two teams was the lack of a flank on the side of VP, and they didn't have anyone to shut her down.
Got a lot of big, slow targets for sure. Pacheco 9-16 on the Bomb King. Definitely a bit of a struggle bus game for him as well. Ricotta definitely receiving some bubbles as well. Some sneaky plays. A lot of eyes on his Eevee as well as he just karate chops people down in the back. I love that attack animation, man. I'll never get over that. Some big dragons for sure. To boot, very cool stuff from a character that has not really seen a lot of play on Splitstone yet. Not a lot of this map, so very cool to sort of get a data point on her on Splitstone Quarry. What are her good spots? Where do we like to see her play? What do we like to see her do? She's got the Warders Fields. She's got the Barrack Turrets, that type of stuff to be able to bounce splitting ice off of as well, which is always nice. 3.5 KDA. Ricotta definitely looking solid.
Well, I think we are going to see maybe a shift overall in terms of the style of map. I mean, the last two that Knights have taken us to were Timber Mill and Splitstone. And because of that, I think we're going to see a switch in the style of the draft. Imani has been very big. Genos has been very big. Those two making a big difference. I expect Torvald's probably going to return to the ban area. Although Virtus.Pro, since they lost that one, will be switching over to first pick. So they will be able to grab, I think, what they want, which is going to make a big play overall. But I also think, I mean, you look at what the story, I guess, has been for Pacheco, which was Eevee looks comfortable, Drogos looks comfortable, Eevee again looks just as good as the first time around. That time they put him on the Bomb King on a map that's not really known for Bomb King, and you can see the effect it has.
Well, I think the bigger part is just that Eevee diving on him constantly with a Torvald bubble. A lot of what we talked about on the Bright Marsh, right? Like, Tanner's a good Amani. I think everybody knows that. I think he was the first guy to really bring it out with confidence. But he got dumpstered that game. I mean, it's just a part of, like, if you're in a bad matchup and you're getting sat on and it's Freeze God's Eevee, it's not a bad character for him either. There's just some of those bad matchups that you just gotta kind of hold. You got to do your best, and you have to win the game through other characters and other win conditions.
Well, a lot of it, I think, came down to putting the pressure on the Fish Echo.
He got really shut down, though,
and
for sure.
Again, with no counterflank, you just got to watch as Ricotta sat back. He wasn't even chilling. Like, he would sit back and get kills, but, like, there were times where he was jumping in your face as well. The Moldamba playing its role. Furia, I don't know if I can look it back at it, but I feel like I saw her quite a few times overall with Na'Vi and NIP. And I feel like she hasn't really won.
At least twice, I want to say Spunky picked that up.
I see her
and
twice,
it was something that we
lost every game.
Commented on, the guys that were around and supporting full time when that Furia Solar Blessing meta was a big part of her success, and what that was. Support metas have very been linear. Like it's like one guy. It's Genos Damba or Genos Furia.
Yeah.
It's like only in certain niche scenarios would you run Genos back in the day, like if you're trying to do 3 DPS. The supports have never seen a lot of bans, pretty straightforward. So a lot of strategies are built sort of around them with the idea that they're going to be open and things like that, whether it's building that 3 DPS comp or whether it's building, a lineup that is going to just look for those hard resets off of Solar Blessing. And Furia did see some buffs and some nerfs, and that obviously has something to do with her viability and the amount of play that she sees. But it's definitely worth talking about that she did used to be a big part of it, so that's why it makes sense for someone like Vex, who supported through that era of Furia, to feel comfortable going back to her.
I feel like we're in this position now, and I didn't see her exact win rate, but based on all the games I just looked at, she does not very successful in these matchups, specifically when the teams are even. I feel like any support, if you're ahead, you're going to be able to win with. So you're looking at this kind of scenarios. I prefer, I think, Saris. I prefer Ying over her. With Genos being I want to say, like, the two that come through, you could really mess with a team by banning Genos, banning Moldamba, and grabbing like a Ying and forcing them to be uncomfortable. Maybe playing around that support role a little stronger.
Well, the headsets are going back on. It looks like we're about ready to get into maps here as we head into game number 5. This has been a pretty quick set up until this point.
Yeah.
This is the momentum flip. This is the opportunity for the Knights to fight their way back into this set. Looking earlier at even the 4-0 between NIP and SSG, though it was a 4-0, that was still a very, very long 4-0. That took almost 2 hours for us to get through that one. This one was on pace to finish in about an hour and a half as we head into Ascension Peak. It's been 4-1, 4-0, 4-1, dominance from VP. But this is a little bit more of a return to normalcy. I think Knights definitely have a good chance on this map. But again, remember, after game 2, we go to loser's pick. So this is the best foot forward that VP have selected.
And that's where it can be a little scary and unsurprising. There's Torvald at the very beginning. That one, you could even tell me that's a frustration ban more than anything, and I believe it. Where it's not a we want to, like, it's just like, this guy just cost us a set. We probably could have come into another point fight and won, but because that hyper beam, we had no chance. So we just want him out of here.
Well, fairly more standard set of bans here. Atlas and Genos really the guys that are least commonly seen in that category. And Khan will be the first pick as a result of that. Khan very strong here for all the reasons he's strong on a lot of other maps. You can dunk people in the well. You can dunk people off the cliff side of the map. Lots of good stuff to do with this character.
And then there's just the general control, the damage, and healing that he brings in. There's a lot that can stack up for Khan. Called him Fat Victor for a little bit, and he doesn't have the grenade, but if you trade out the grenade for like a localized 1,000 heal, it's pretty good.
Absolutely is solid. And because I think Storm of Bullets has become a much more popular style for Khan, almost to the point where it's the only real style that we see for Khan anymore. You're looking at ultimates charging a lot faster for him, and the fact that he's getting overpowers just so much more quickly has been a really big impact in making a strong character even stronger. The Knights want to continue to play around the Throner in a strong point fight here with Ascension Peak, which is questionable for me Because Ascension Peak, just due to how unique the point is, it's a real big rectangle with the statues, and of course that allows you to not need an Aradamba to contest on the objective. You don't need somebody like you would on Frog Isle to just stand out in the open to take it on the chin like you would on maybe even a Splitstone Quarry or a Bright Marsh, and the wall isn't quite as valuable in a large open room like the Ascension Peak wall, the Ascension Peak point fight room, I guess I should say. Where a barrack is just fine, you know. I feel like he can't really contest. The dragon is good. I like the dragon on any map where there is a room around the point, like a Frozen Guard or a Bright Marsh. Anything you can really get close to the objective before you're even within line of sight seems really good.
And then not only that, but this is like a return for Hecate, right? You have him go 1, 2, 3 games in a row where they're successful with Amani. And then the last game, that gets taken away from him. The Knights grab that very early to make him uncomfortable. He switches to Cassie, and that doesn't admittedly make him worse. It's just not the same feeling, I want to say, for them. So maybe going back to this to put Hecate somewhere comfortable, but also a beautiful flex, because we have seen, and I'm going to throw this one out there for both teams, snipers on this map.
Nice.
I don't think we're going to, but you never truly know
I can get
when a
us out
Kness
of
or a
here
Strix
alive.
might, you know, just poke their
Stay
head out.
close and follow my lead.
Well, Cassie's definitely one of my favorite characters for Rukata. I think that's absolutely one of his power picks. He's looked really good on it through the first couple weeks of the league, so good to see him go back to this with the back against the wall. Remember, this is 3-1 for Virtus.Pro. A single slip from the Knights. They're going to be having to hold the L here. VP will grab their 5th win and move to 5-3 in the standings. The Knights will fall to, I believe, what is that, 2-7 at this point?
Yeah. Well, I can tell you, it's already looking like it might be a little rough. There comes the Saris. So the Maldamba was taken away, so this time Vex
kidding.
flexing onto that one. You get the Drogos, you get the Amani. How do you feel about VP's draft?
So far, yeah, I think it's almost infallible. I mean, the way they're picking around, Pan doesn't have his character yet. Rukata's likely to play this Cassie. If they don't draft a hit scan, it's going to be the same problem they had on Jaguar Falls. They're going to really struggle to deal with Fasheko flying around and not having a reliable way to deal with them. Eevee is open. Pip is open. They went to the Pip just one time, and the Knights never really looked at it again. They have to grab something for Pain here. I think Leon and Cassie are both straightforward enough characters that they could be played either way, and Andro is just never a character that comes into mind. He's just so rare, but we've seen it a couple times. Alex ran this, and this has to be the answer onto Fasheko's Drogos.
I mean, it's something we definitely see having a huge impact overall. I mean, it gives you some hit scan. He is, as we have said in the past, the natural predator to Drogos in the wild. So him being able to hunt him down, definitely something that's he's used to at this point. And we've seen the Knights go to it. It hasn't always worked for them when they do pick it up, but they aren't afraid to pick the Endro.
I just worry about it with Amani on the field now. I mean, having the cripple bomb being so reliable and such a good, easy part of her damage.
Just take him right out of the
Eevees
air.
and Andros just have to be wary. It was before they could just kind of run free and not have to worry. There wasn't a lot of reliable cripples, and even when Grover was being played, it still wasn't reliable enough. You just didn't see it happen. But with the bomb being big, fast, AoE, it's tough. Something you got to be aware of for sure, and something Pain is definitely going to have to cool. But it is a 20-second cooldown, so you just be like, you listen for it, and once you hear it, you know you have a pretty nice, juicy window to move freely.
Well, it's 3-1 here for Virtus.Pro. Match point if they can close it out. Splitstone Quarry was a little back and forth, but now we're going to Ascension Peak, so let's go down to Dave and Nick as they kick us through this match.
Yes!
Hey!
The curse!
Go and join the club!
No, that's not even joined. I left the club. The curse is now lifted. Yes!
Yeah!
Yeah, baby!
Now there's something that pumped us up on this Friday
There's that
afternoon.
Friday. Yeah.
As that 5-hour energy needed to start kicking in, Gore just gave us like a whole week
Just
full
a
of energy
shot
right
to
there.
the thigh right there. Oh,
And there's
I
no
love
other.
it.
I mean, this could be the last throw. Like he could essentially
the weekend.
a whole week. Yeah, a whole weekend for sure.
Yeah, you're right.
What did he say? Dave and Nick, Evan and Nick.
He said Dave and Nick.
It's always Nick.
It's always Nick.
Leave Nick out of it. I'm pissed.
Oh, I am just.
And now I'm taking it personally.
It's personal.
Should I even cast, Dave? Why don't we get Nick in here?
You might as well.
My God. It's one thing if you do it, but Gore?
Come on. Oh, what is that supposed to do? What? Why am I? We're gonna move on.
No.
Before I start to cry yet again. Pittsburgh
That
Knights.
was funny.
Finally, first blood coming through. A minute and a half into both teams just bumping heads. Hecate finds one. Oh my, it's checkerboard. It's Hecate, Payan, each with a double in this fight. But look at the aggression. They're all surrounding Dosups right now, but Payan and Ricotta are going to find the last two here. The Pittsburgh Knights, they have control, 36%. Vex is doing some healing, doing some damage. Dosup's going to find the kill. He's going to be the beneficiary. Ooh. But 57% for the Knights. Virtus.Pro are able to retake it.
And
maybe
this is good. You know, Drogoz used to never be able to fight against Andrew midair. That's not the case anymore. He can hit a couple of rockets, and just one and a fire spit's going to put Andrew into a very defensive spot. Yeah. Really good stuff from Dethroner just to immune and save that for that convergence, but unfortunately, there's just way too much going on. The Saris giving the heal to Fasheko, but it's too late. And finally, when the heal comes back again, he has to already commit.
That's a good route.
No way.
He unfortunately flies right on into a Dread Serpent to his demise, but Hecate gets the root, gets the kill. He's able to help his team retake. And now they have to deal with the Dragon first. The Dragon's going to fall. Still have one more chance at the touch here if they can
good body block.
Not block out Dethroner. The wall and the Dome Shield's coming out. That's reactionary. That's just to stall things out.
Wow.
And you have your front lines. You have Pueule up top, zoning out the rest of the Knights as well. So many low red health bars right now, and Hecate and Fasheko, they're able to capitalize on it. Overtime ticking away. It's really only up to G-Bunny.
Dosups, what? I mean, that's some restraint, because if I see that low health bar, I'm trying to get Ricotta, but it ends up getting taken care of at the end. But there's so many juicy targets on the side of Pittsburgh Knights. Virtus.Pro do the smart thing. They wait it out, get full heal, then go back in as a unit. Actually leave it to the DPS carry who's been hiding, not taking so much of the ire of that final moments of a point fight as the tanks kind of do. And Fasheko on a 3 streak. Looks good on the Drogoz here. Virtus.Pro up.
Drogoz has always been pretty impactful on this map. I love this. The two flying champions going toe-to-toe with each other right now. You imagine Andro will have the slightly higher advantage in that matchup, given his weapon. But look at this, health bar is still so low for the Knights. Cuty's got a tall order ahead to keep all those boys healthy, and they're all zoned back into their base right now. They're going to try to retake the high ground. The Dragon flying high. Another double Dragon comp. We saw how this worked out last time.
Yep.
Virtus.Pro happy to take it yet again. Getting that vertical advantage in this case. Just a little damage. No kills. Minute 25 seconds left, but that payload, well, somebody just needs to give it a little breathe. Ooh, Dread Serpent's going to catch one. Dosups goes running, though, but where's the engagement?
And he ran right where he wanted to go, which was towards G-Bunny, who's low. He's like, you know, I'm getting there a little slower, a little sillier, but at least I'm getting there, and can't complain about it. He started this capture with a Dome Shield. He might just finish it with one more.
There it is. He drops it down. He heard the Dragon Punch as well, but did he find a kill? Payan, he's going to find potentially the first kill of this final engagement. No kills coming out from either side just as of yet. Virtus.Pro. There's still time.
Yeah,
there's still 50 seconds.
50 seconds,
I'm assuming,
by the way.
I'm thinking that overtime's about to go. The Dragon Punch still in hand. So they lose one. They're going to step back a little bit, reconvene. The overpower could get things started here. His eyes are turned to Ricotta now. G-Bunny's going to go take a drink, or a dip, I should say, in the ocean. Payan answers back, 1 for 1 so far. Trading shots back and forth, but Fasheko and Hecate get the better end of that one. The Throner's going low. He's the last line of defense here. If he goes down, this one could go through if G-Bunny's not able to get a touch.
And I've liked Custom to Throner's pairing here. Obviously, him going up against that competition of Vex and Dosups. It's a good matchup, and they both kind of given it to each other here and there and had moments of success and failure. Overall, Virtus.Pro kind of seized the moment this map, but I mean, it's all about where you end, baby.
Yeah.
Pittsburgh Knights tie it up despite it being a pretty difficult defense and getting 99% of the way there.
Despite being at the top of the hill defending, that was an uphill battle on the defensive end.
Good way to put it.
For the Knights in that case, and honestly, the overpower started things so well for Virtus.Pro. Top 3 damage dealers in the game as well. But I think Payan's been a big driving force of this Knights team so far, making the Andro look really good. We've seen some good Andros, we've seen some bad Andros, but I think this is one of the better ones.
I think this Andro definitely, I mean, you know, Godslayer, bringing it back old school. You know, shout out to, you know, these resets and the ability to just be a flank. I mean, Andro incorporates and
encapsulates really what it means to be a flanking Paladins. He's one of the most iconic, if not the most iconic characters in the game. And it's just always nice to see him get his shine on, but man, Ricotta hitting some really amazing shots there. Here's the convergence. Who's it going to pull? It gets two, and it gets the healer and the front line.
The follow-up is right there. Ricotta's able to drop Fisheko, but Hecate drops Pan in return. Now it's all up to Ricotta. He's going to not do much in that situation. Unfortunately, 4v1, that's not a very likely scenario.
No.
As such, Virtus.Pro, they're on the point. 42% here for them. They used a convergence, but that was it. Scout and the Dread Serpent on the opposite end. Seismic Crash used towards the end of the last round.
And this is what I always really envisioned Imani's Dragon being used for. This moment, this zone. Make it like, you know, you got an extra player there who's going to do a lot of damage for a team that has to move towards it if they want to capture the objective. And here's what I'm talking about. That fire spit, one rocket, and now Andro can't really play. That's what Fisheko needs to do. It's not easy, but if you do that, matchup shift towards his favor.
Yeah, Pan goes very far back
like
there.
that.
Fisheko starting to come alive. Ricotta drops Hecate. Dosups, though, he gets two in this fight. And Virtus.Pro, they're going to capture point number 2. And they'll look to get this one pushed in, unlike last time.
Yeah.
They were so close.
They were close, and they definitely want to redo, and they get one. Little moment there from Fishy. Usually you want to explode that fire spit at almost every single time you shoot it out, but he ignores it. He completely does and goes for 2 direct hits, and that ends up being the difference. That cleans up Ricotta instead of trying to get that fire spit, which would have been minimal damage, maybe none at all, as he had already moved away from it. Little things like that, smart, I guess, purposeful decisions on the Drogos making a big difference here to keep momentum on the way of Virtus.Pro.
I mean, a lot of this game also has come down to who wins the aerial battle. Does Pan come out on top and help his team get rid of the Drogos, or does he get the shorter end of that stick and free up Drogos then to fly around up in the air? It's gone back and forth. Right now, though, things start off on the ground with the Throner and Ricotta starting off the defense in a good way here for the Pittsburgh Knights, but we got to remember last time. These fights happened the entire time. Oh, that's a huge flame spit. A little bit of damage onto a lot of people. No follow-up, though. But I have to give shout-outs. That was beautifully played. There's something satisfying about just all of the damage numbers flying up at the same time.
It's beautiful. And target prioritization, I find, has just been so good. And this has been Pittsburgh Knights. This is what they wanted to do. If I am Fisheko, I'm not trying to kill anyone right here. I'm actually just going to the point. I'm just going back to the point. I'm saying, deal with me, dude. I'm Drogos. The only people that can kill me, they're right here. So let my team handle this. Cuss will die eventually. Get started on this push. And in fact, there is someone there already. It's Doe.
Yep. Well played from him to just get the cart moving. So, all right, you guys catch up later.
Yeah, you don't need 4 doing that.
I'm going to get this one moving up the hill. It's eerily similar to the last defense. About 50 seconds left, and rounding the final corner is the payload. The Dread Serpent ready on defense for the Knights. They're actually very close on 4 of their ults, but Virtus.Pro, they have 5 ready to be used right now. Dragon Punches haven't found a lot of great targets up to this point. It's a 1-for-1, though, to start things off.
And this Drogos is just doing so much work. I mean, this is why we talk about the champion being so much about the player. I mean, yeah, you can hit your fire spits, but if you're not hitting your directs, if you're not hitting them, it makes the entire difference. He doesn't necessarily win these matchups. Sheko's carrying a huge load for this squad, doing it really well, but Payne and Ricotta are also starting to get warm. Getting a little scared if I'm Virtus.Pro because they're popping off, they're hitting their shots, they're snapping to these targets, and that's exactly what you do not want to see.
Ricotta is a tried and true Cassie. We've seen it time and time again. As I said, he adds another kill into this one. And again, that's just been the battle to watch. Is it Pan? Is it Fisheko? Is it Ricotta? I mean, who's coming out on top of all these engagements to start off these team fights?
Very good.
Nice, nice convergence there from Vex to start off the fight for Virtus.Pro, and that saved that fight. It very well was looking like it was going the opposite direction. Then a beautiful convergence and some follow-up from the rest of Virtus.Pro helped them get point number 2. But the Knights, they've looked great on defense. Virtus.Pro, they've looked great on the offensive point capture, I should say. Just haven't found a way to get it pushed through.
2-2 is a pretty dangerous time, especially if the same team's won both points in a row, because in point 3, that's the chance where it becomes lethal. You can finish the game. And if you've only ever played offense, and you don't know what it's like to get your defensive pacing here, then you could get caught off guard and have the team that maybe wins only 1 point here actually finish off the game. If I'm in Pittsburgh's shoes, you're already expected to lose this set. You're down 3-1. You were down 3-0. Like, it's all gravy. Just go out there, play your best. They lose this one, but it doesn't mean it's all over here. DeThroner still holding them to only 21%, excuse me, 3% on the capture point.
Yep. That's been a big thing to take away as well. I mean, some of these teams who have suffered a bunch of losses, they look pretty good while doing it, and it shows how close a lot of these teams really are. Doseps, though, he's going to be the one in control of this fight, with a couple there to solidify Virtus.Pro's positioning on the point. Now they're going to push forward, get some dismounts, try to really push this zone through. DeThroner's going so low here.
Yeah.
The healing finally comes through, gets him topped off, but they're already up to 78%.
Well, he can't touch. That's the thing. And you got to get someone out there. It's going to be the shoulder bash at 10.
I don't know if they have time.
Do they have a body block?
Oh,
No,
there
they
it is.
don't. There's the assert dominance. All right, so this will definitely do it. Oh, my God. He almost didn't land in time. Look at that Dread Serpent just to give him some space. G-Bunny going to stabilize. Pittsburgh Knights now in control. Can they find a kill off of this?
Not just as of yet, but they committed so much to that. They threw out the Dread Serpent, they dropped the assert dominance as well.
Uh-oh.
They are on the point here. Pacheco hits some shots, but the damage gets reversed on that one. 84% for Pittsburgh Knights. Virtus.Pro now, they need to get in there. Oh, those are some good shots from Pan. Rakata as well. Pule with the lone kill on the Virtus.Pro side for this one. It's a 99 point fight right now. Cuss Cutie just hanging back, giving his team some healing. Pule just dancing around. A lot of these statues in here. He finds Pan. That's an important kill in this one. He's pulling up his shield to mitigate a little damage, but kills are going back and forth.
I mean, Pule is doing such an important job here. He buys enough time for Pacheco. He buys enough time for Doseps. He gets the kill onto the back line as well. I mean, Hecate goes down. The pressure is on for Virtus.Pro, and it looks like Pittsburgh might just steal it away, but Pule stays alive. And man, oh man, what an impact he has had in this matchup.
A quiet but great game from Pule. The Dragon Punch comes through onto Throner just to seal things up as well. G-Bunny, Commander's grab is going to prevent that shoulder bash. Pacheco's going to get credit for that kill. And here's their third attempt now at defense. I mean, is there something you've noticed that they could change to help on their offensive push? I mean,
well,
what's been falling short for them?
Let's look at the credits and demonstrate something you may not watch as a casual viewer. If you take a look at the net worth for Virtus.Pro, it's now 900 credits in favor of Pittsburgh Knights by each individual player. So the top to the top, the bottom to the bottom, they should be about 900 credits, maybe more ahead.
Yeah.
That's a full cauterized 3. It's a full tier 3 item. What this means is all those extraneous things like the bulldozers, like the resiliences can come online for Virtus.Pro. And if they win these fights, look, they're winning so much more handily here.
They are.
And it's a lot earlier as well. The TTK lowers as the cauterized 3s come online. G-Bunny doesn't have his, DeThroner doesn't have his, but Pule and Doseps do. Every member does except Vex, and Cuss on that side doesn't have as well. So this is what's starting to turn the tide.
This is starting to look a lot better here. The problem has been a lot of like these intermediary kills where they'll find one, they'll find a couple, but G-Bunny or someone else is able to answer back. That's a great pull. Out of the zone goes G-Bunny, but here it is yet again. They're able to answer back with one. Hecate, though, he gets 2 now for Virtus.Pro. Pule adds the 3rd in this fight.
I mean, beautiful stuff. Pule is on 11 streak, hasn't died since that point fight. I mean, really an MVP in this performance, in this map so far, and I think they're going to be happy that they have him on their team right now. Sub or no sub, if it stays that way, or if it doesn't. And now it's time for Hecate to try and shine. He gets Payan and the Dread Serpent in desperation.
Doesn't find anyone. It doesn't really look like it. Seismic Crash, everything's starting to get thrown out here from the Knights. Just try to find a defense. Rakata's still alive. There's the overpower. Goodbye, he says to G-Bunny. This one could go through. They don't have a lot of frontliners left to contest. It's down to the healer. It's down to the Andro. They're not going to have much of a chance. And Virtus.Pro, they're going to seal up the 4-1 day.
And Hecate says something we cannot repeat on camera, but you can infer how he's feeling. Very hyped, very happy. And man, Pule getting the nod from Vex as well. And it should be getting the nod from all of his teammates as they watch back and see how he kind of had that Herculean effort to keep it alive, get some healing, focus the right targets. 2 crucial overpowers on the front lines that sealed the deal for these pushes and capture objectives. But hats off to Pittsburgh as well. Put up a good fight towards the end. Just couldn't get it going fast enough.
It's a tough week from them as well. They have a 4-0 yesterday, a 4-1 today. Can't forget, though, I mean, these are 2 of the better teams in the league here that you're going up against, and they held their own.
Yeah.
The NIP set, a little bit tougher for them, but definitely looked, I think, better here, I would say, than they did yesterday against Virtus.Pro. I mean, if you're not going to win when you come back the next day, at least looking better is important.
Yeah.
Knowing that you've taken something away from it. But Virtus.Pro, 2 big wins this week as well.
Yeah, huge week for Virtus.Pro. Obviously, I think NIP continuing their week, that's big. I think looking back at Pittsburgh, what I would say is that, yes, drafting has been one of your expertise. And obviously, you know, Virtus.Pro, they do a good job of drafting too. What I'd like to see Pittsburgh find is their identity.
Right.
Who are they? Where did they go? How did they win? Are they the clutch team? Are they the aggressive style team?
Right.
And I think that's a decision they need to find sooner than later, and they're still working on it. So hats off to them, but Virtus.Pro, they take it at the end of the day.
They take it. Big week for us here in the PPL, but that's going to do it for us on this Friday. Let's send it back to the desk to wrap the day.
Well, I let that real Friday energy get to me, and I messed up the last throw that I got for all of this. I got the Dave curse.
I don't know, man.
But you know who didn't get cursed?
Am I the only one who hasn't
Virtus.Pro.
done that? I guess it's everybody just says me when it's not actually me.
And I don't know why. I feel like, in my defense, what I would say is, oh, I was talking to you, so Nick was on my mind. But I was also, I'll just admit it, I'm tired, so that's probably part of what it is. Just, I was tired. I didn't think through what I was about to say, and so I messed
It's the
it
way
up.
of the road, brother.
Sometimes you just got to goof it so you don't goof it in the future.
There you go.
That's life advice. Get that on your
That's quotable. That's a calendar.
tattoo. Let's make that a tattoo. I was going to say put that on my tombstone, but I was like, I don't want to think about that right now. That's
Whatever you
kinda
want. A foreword in a book. I like it all, really.
All of it.
Lot
Just
of great
whatever you
options.
need. I need a book of things like colloquials that I
Gorisms.
just come up with. But the first note I wrote down was just VP, just give it to him. And I think it was just several good convergences. It was a really, really good Drogos.
Yeah,
Obviously, you see a really
jeez.
good Hagate, but also Pule Ule putting
man.
his name on the list.
Pule Ule, God, there's so many fights that I want to talk about, but you know, Vex had his little replay with that convergence. That convergence won that fight. Pule Ule keeps Virtus.Pro alive in that final point fight. They go on to win the game off of that push. He's absolutely responsible for that. There's so many great moments from so many guys in this team, but Dosups, Pule Ule, and Vex, they were really the guys that I feel carried the weight in this game and made this win super possible for them. It was very difficult. Here's that critical moment. Pule Ule is all alone right now. Everybody ignores him. They go to the back line just to die Vex and to kill Hagate, and he is left basically to his own devices. That battle shout was so big. So much stuff was hitting him right then. The shoulder bash was hitting him right then. He mitigates so much damage with those couple of immunity frames. He is the big reason I think they were able to stay alive. And what Evan was talking about is if you go offense, fail, and then it flips in a lethal round when you could lose the game, that's where it gets scary, man. So this was all the more critical for Pule Ule to make sure that he locked down. 2 great overpowers in the last round as well. What else can you ask for?
I mean, I do want to throw out a shout-out over to Ricotta because I'm going to say he had the Invocal effect. Did really well in every single game, even though they were only successful throughout one of them. But when it came down to it, that was just a treat. Like, I was on the fence about going to like Game 5 how it was going to look because I was like, man, this is going to be a slaughter because like Virtus.Pro get to choose the map again. We're going back to these 4-0-4-1s that we saw early on. And then it, I guess, was kind of that way, but it was like it was so entertaining to be able to watch so many good ults coming down from Vex, so many good, like just good positioning and shots from Fisheko on the Drogos. Like a lot of it that came together was here are these guys on their comfort picks and they are exactly where you want them to be and they're doing exactly what you want them to do. And we actually have, I believe I heard Vex going to be down there with
Pule
Ule going to sit through, who, reminder, technically a sub, I think. I don't know how much we can rely on that anymore.
Best
It's week
damn
7.
sub money can buy.
He's been playing real well. So let's jump down to the interview, see what they have to say about this set.
Hey guys, welcome back. Second time in our winner seats for 2 days in a row here. Had a long day yesterday, a little bit shorter of a day today. Looking at the teams you guys had to play this week, how important is it to go 2-0 in a week like this?
The biggest thing is we lost to Knights the first week. So we really needed to take this win against them to set ourselves up for MSI and making sure we get a good placement, good everything. And yesterday was just a close game against a close team that we're super close to, especially Puli and Hagate.
You know, we talked about heroics. There are a lot of little moments there. You know, you're getting dove in one of those point rounds, and in one of those rounds, you have a kind of a snap convergence and somehow turn that around in a 2v1. You stay alive. Pule Ule as well, just because Vex answered your heroics in that last objective fight, staying alive, managing that, and your target prioritization was really what helped that final push be through. What was going on through your mind in that moment and through those plays?
Guy is just being chill. we all need to keep calm, and we all do calls. So that's helped us a lot to prioritize targets as well.
Now, I kind of want to open things back up again. You talked about the last time that you played the Knights. Obviously, they came out with the win. What are some things that maybe went a little differently, or some changes that you guys saw that allowed you to win here today?
I think the biggest change was the first game against the Knights. Pulley wasn't in shape, and today he was absolutely a monster.
Right.
Pulley really stepped up. I'm super proud of this guy. Nice
Thank
job,
you, bro.
buddy. He played. he played unbelievably well today. I'm so proud of him coming in the first week being a sub and really stepping it up now.
Absolutely. Well, big win for you guys. Great job to both of you, and congrats. We're going to send it back to the desk to wrap the day.
Well, surprisingly enough, not really. Kind of a lengthy day in the terms of how long some of the games went, especially early on.
Yeah, despite being only 9
overall,
games.
I was going to say 9 games total, ending a little earlier than we did yesterday coming through. And yesterday we had a Game 7, so that's what can tell you about it. I think yesterday's actually was pretty interesting because SSG VP, like, the first 4 were 4-3s, but I don't think any of them were like the 20-minute 4-3s, right? It's like, cool, this ended in 14, 15 minutes because it's, Jaguar Falls, and we just bounced back and forth until we finished everything. But at the end of the day right now, some teams are looking a little better than others, and NIP are 9-0, 30 map differential. That is 24 maps ahead of anyone else. Let that one sink in for a little bit.
You got to factor in, Navi's only played 6 games. Things like that is definitely going to start to swing, but just being so undefeated for so long is crazy.
They're 47 maps ahead of the Renegades and the Knights.
Many maps. Many maps,
That's
brothers.
a lot of maps.
And another thing to talk about as far as SSG is they've played NIP twice now, so they've managed to weather the storm, so to speak.
Yeah.
Their schedule gets a little bit easier. They've still managed to maintain a decent spot in the standings, and top 6 is looking pretty damn likely if they continue on the trend they're on now.
Well, with that, we can actually look ahead to what we will be seeing next Thursday and Friday. You will see the return of Kanga and Envy and Renegades and Na'Vi. All the teams that have played this week get a little bit of rest and relaxation. Envy have to go up against Na'Vi once again. First time that matchup went the way of Envy, but with Mutu back, you'll have to see how that one comes through. Kanga versus Renegades, and then swap some opponents around for Friday. Kanga and Envy, Renegades, and Na'Vi. Looks like a pretty interesting day, actually. Kanga and Renegades catches my eye maybe a little more than Envy Na'Vi. I think Envy Na'Vi is going to be an awesome set, but Kanga Renegades is kind of decisive for, I think, both of those teams. Like, I feel if Renegades lose against Kanga, who I believe last time they met they beat, then all of a sudden I think it's a much tougher rest of the split for Renegades, whereas Kanga kind of need that win to keep themselves in it.
The Envy Na'Vi run back as well. That was, another one of these week 1 matchups that was a little bit different back then than it was now. Mutu obviously not being here for Na'Vi. They weren't quite at full strength. Na'Vi still able to take them down. And then after that, the Na'Vi sort of tailspin, as we're calling it. But now they've started they got a win under their belt. They went into their last weekend with that W, so they're kind of maybe hopefully coming back on the upswing. We'll have to see where they land. Kanga is definitely a big team to talk about as well. NIP have been saying that this is one of the few teams that still gives us trouble, and they maybe outjank us at times. So Kanga, always a very interesting team, always known to kind of play some goofy stuff and do whatever it takes to win. But looking forward to that next week for sure.
Yeah, well, there is an end goal for all of these teams, and that is to make it to the Paladins World Championship. That is going to be a conjunction between this split and next split. I believe standings are even going to stay there throughout all of this, so this huge lead that NIP has does matter when it comes down to Hi-Res Expo. The tickets are out now if you want to be able to get them. I absolutely recommend going. I have enjoyed it literally every year because even before I worked here, I made sure to go. It's always been a treat. It's always fun to be able to watch it. Enjoy these esports you love with your friends. But that's going to do it for today. That's going to do it for this week, guys. Friday was, again, maybe a little lengthy, maybe not as lengthy as some of the others. 9 total games coming through. Some teams win, some teams lose, but hopefully you enjoy the rest of your weekend. My name's been Gormizer. This is Nick, Pretty Hair Keo. From the rest of us here at Skillshot, we'll see you next time.
Brought to you by Skillshot, Hi-Res Videos, Evil Mojo, iNap, SteelSeries, Respawn.